Okay, we're live, so you're ready to go.
All right, thank you, Keith. And the meeting will come to order. Welcome everyone to the Wednesday, May 13, 2020 meeting of the Historic Resources Preservation Board. Could we get a roll call, please?
Certainly. Judith Fox.
Here.
Bernard Guthrie. Chip. Chip.
Unmute.
Yep.
I'm here.
He's good.
Okay. Getting ready to write a message. Bill Feldkamp.
Here.
Judith Just.
Here.
Ozzy Ona. David Cavorsi. Robert Dorenzo.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Any additions, deletions, reordering from anyone?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right, no changes. Could we get an approval of the minutes? Can someone make a motion approving the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes.
I second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, aye.
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 Thank you. Okay, now we'll go to swearing in. Are any of the applicants here yet?
I believe that all of them are here.
Do we need them to verbally?
Do we need them to verbally?
Can we not have them actually on the video?
Ask if we can just do audio for them.
If you want to do, you could bring them on for video if you want to do it real quick, and then we can have them back to the attendees. That's fine.
That would be great. If we can have them on video, because it would be better if Ms. Cole.
So we can,
would see them.
yeah, so we can identify them.
Yeah, I'll bring them over right now. Okay, so we brought him over. Give it a second.
I think they just need to unmute.
Yeah, and applicants, you just want to unmute yourself and share your video if possible, please.
Oh, here it is.
Okay, I think you have everyone
Yeah.
available.
Okay, so we're ready. I have, just to verify, I have Mert Surter,
Yes, thank you.
Manny Rojas,
Yes, thank you.
and I apologize if I'm not sure, it came up under public information, is Alethea Huff.
Aletha Hoff.
Okay, and that's anyone else that I'm missing there?
No.
Okay, let's go with it. All right, so everyone, including staff, please raise your right hand. If you plan to speak before the board and give any testimony this evening, do you swear and affirm the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say yes.
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 Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Secretary, do we have proof of publication?
Yes, it was provided in the meeting packet.
Yes. And we understand there are no withdrawals or postponements.
That is correct.
All right.
And just
Board
a point of order, if everybody could mute themselves if they're not speaking except for the chair and Sherry.
Of course.
Okay. Board disclosures from board members regarding this. Let's start with Judith Just. Any disclosures, any?
You're muted.
I have nothing to disclose.
All right. Mr. Dorinzo, any disclosures?
Nothing to disclose, sir.
Mr. Guthrie, any disclosures? Mr. Guthrie? Mr. Guthrie, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Barely. Yes.
Okay. I have no disclosures.
All right. Judith Fox, no disclosures.
No, sir, no disclosures.
And David Cavorsi, no. All right, well, let's take that. Shall we go right into our first project of the evening? A certificate of appropriateness at a 711 North L Street. Mr. Hodges, did you want to make the presentation?
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Are you seeing anything?
Yep.
Okay, well, good evening. This is Jordan Hodges, Senior Preservation Coordinator for the City of Lake Worth Beach, and I'll be presenting the first three items for you this evening. Item A, which is HRPB project number 20-001-00067, which is a consideration of a certificate of appropriateness for the new construction of a plus or minus 2,245 square foot two-family structure at 711 North L Street. The subject property is located in the single family and two family residential zoning district and the Northeast Lucerne Local Historic District. The applicant tonight is requesting approval for a new two-family structure. The subject property is a 50-foot by 135 square foot platted lot of record located at 711 North L Street between 7th Avenue, between 7th and 8th Avenue North in Lake Worth Beach. The vacant property is located in the single family and two family residential zoning district and retains a future land use designation of medium density residential. The original structure located on this parcel was constructed circa 1947, and the design was a model taken from Fabricated Homes Incorporated, which was a catalog based in Brooklyn, New York. The architectural drawings illustrate a single-story minimal traditional residence of wood frame construction with lap siding, hung windows and a divided light pattern, and an exposed chimney and gable composition shingle roof. The design also featured a side-located porch with a secondary entrance to the structure. Lake Worth property appraiser's card from the 1940s describes the structure and confirms the approximate date of construction in 1947. But in 2011, that structure was demolished based on permitting records. This is the parcel as it sits today. As you can see, it is a vacant lot. These photos show the neighboring properties to the north and to the south. So the applicant is requesting approval for a 2,245 square foot, one-story, two-family residence. The site plan before you and the architectural drawings were included in this report as attachment E of the board packet. The subject parcel is well suited for the proposed development as it provides for the type of development envisioned within the SFTF 14 zoning designation. Proposed site features include wood fences, landscaping, paver walkways, and paver parking paths in the front and rear of the property. The proposed new construction project is consistent with all site data requirements in the city's zoning code, with the exception of the front yard impermeable maximum and parking dimensions for the proposed parallel parking space. There are also some inconsistencies with the calculation for maximum building coverage and floor area ratio on the site data table. The front yard impermeable surface total for the subject property is limited to 250 square feet. The proposed site plan indicates that 255 square feet of the front yard will be impermeable. Staff has added a condition of approval so that the front yard will comply with the zoning requirement at permitting. This condition requires that a variety of pervious materials and driveway designs be utilized to reduce the impermeable area to achieve compliance. The minimum dimensions for the parallel parking spaces in the rear of the property by code are 9 feet by 22 feet. The proposed site plan indicates an 8 by 20 parallel parking space. Staff has also added a condition of approval that the rear parking space complies with the particular zoning requirement. There is sufficient space in the rear yard to accommodate the minimum parking dimensions. If the impermeable surface total for the lot becomes an issue, since the additional lot coverage was not accounted for, the applicant may utilize the pervious materials to reduce the impermeable surface area. A preliminary landscape plan was included in attachment E of the board packet. The landscaping for the property will need to be fully evaluated to ensure that it meets the minimum requirements of LDR section 23.6-1, which are landscape regulations. And final review and approval will take place during the building permit review process. The proposed building is designed in a wood frame vernacular architectural style. The single-story two-family structure is proposed with identical facades fronting North L Street and the rear alley. Each facade features a covered entry with railings and a gabled roof. The structure is designed utilizing concrete block construction, finished with stucco simulated woodlap siding on the exterior walls and vertical siding on the smaller projecting roof gables. The roof design features dimensional asphalt shingles and some bracketed overhanging eaves. The fenestration incorporates largely 6/1 aluminum impact single hung windows. And the architect did provide us with historically compatible window trim, sill, and mullion details. The French glazed and recessed panel doors are also proposed for each facade. This is the proposed floor plan of the structure. I'll just walk through that really quickly. Can you see my mouse? So this would be the front entry room. You do have a dining room and an open kitchen. Living area, you have 2 bedrooms here on the south side of the property with a shared bath and then a master bath to the rear. And that plan is flipped and duplicated on the rear to face the alley. The applicant has also provided a streetscape elevation. And again, streetscape elevations are primarily used to ensure that the scale, height, massing, and architectural detailing of the proposed structure are contextually appropriate and compatible with the surrounding properties and neighborhood in general. And the proposed building is generally consistent with the height and width of other single-story buildings surrounding the property, and it is generally in harmony with the height of other historic properties in the district. All new construction within a designated historic district, of course, are subject to visual compatibility criteria. New buildings should take their design cues from the surrounding existing structures, utilizing traditional or contemporary design standards, and elements that relate to existing historic structures that surround them and within the district as a whole. Building design styles, whether contemporary or traditional, should be visually compatible with existing structures in the district. In approving or denying applications for certificates of appropriateness for new construction, the city shall at minimum consider additional guidelines which help define visual compatibility as listed in the Lake Worth LDR section 23.5-4K3A. It is the general analysis of staff that the new construction project as proposed is generally compatible with the regulations set forth in the section, with the exception of 2 items. One moment. That would be number 4, that the relationships of solids to voids on the front facade of a building or structure shall be visually compatible and in harmony with the front facades of historic buildings or structures located within the historic district. And that long, unbroken facades in a setting of existing narrow structures can be divided into smaller bays, which will complement the visual setting of the streetscape. So Along the south massing of the front facade, that portion that is set back, it does feature some long unbroken facade. And to satisfy this requirement, staff has recommended a condition of approval that compatibly sized windows or faux window openings with recessed shutters be added to the front elevation to avoid that long expansive blank facade. Also, criteria number 6, that the relationship of the entrance and porch projections to a sidewalk of a building shall be visually compatible and in harmony with the prevalent architectural styles of entrances and porch projections on buildings and structures within the district. Staff is also, the proposed design utilizes a covered porch with a walkway that connects directly to the driveway. Historically, walkways provided a pedestrian connection from the front door to the street or the sidewalk. The proposed entrance to the structure is not compatible or in harmony with prevalent entrances. So to satisfy this requirement, staff has added the condition of approval that a walkway connecting the front door with the sidewalk be added. The city's historic preservation design guidelines provide a guide to architectural styles found within the historic districts, and the proposal minimally adheres to the design features of the wood frame vernacular structures. This architectural style was described as being built by local craftsmen, generally utilizing locally available materials, and were built to take advantage of or protect from the specific environment for which they were built. Ultimately, this means that these buildings were generally utilitarian in nature and had little ornamentation or detailing other than those elements that had an actual use. The proposed design utilizes regular window sizes, appropriate material usage, and has a generally balanced layout. The structure as designed utilizes elements common of wood frame vernacular structures found in early 20th century residential structures throughout the city, and the resulting drawings propose a generally compatible design for the Northeast Lucerne Historic District. Staff has recommended several standard conditions of approval to further ensure visual compatibility, specifically in regards to material choices for the exterior of the building. The proposed application is consistent with the city's land development regulations as conditioned, and the structure's design and site plan are generally consistent with the wood frame vernacular architectural style and the historic preservation design guideline requirements on site consideration. Therefore, staff recommends approval with conditions, which we'll get to in just a moment, to allow construction for the 2-family structure. If you'd like, I can go ahead and run through the conditions of approval. The first of which, the windows and doors shall be wood-clad aluminum or fiberglass, and the windows shall utilize a historically compatible sill detail subject to staff review at permitting, and that all exterior entry doors shall be compatible with the wood frame vernacular architectural style and final design to be reviewed at permitting. Number 2, that all paired windows, again, shall utilize the 6-inch wide mullion, which they are currently meeting. Wood trim, fiber cement trim, or simulated stucco trim shall be utilized to replicate the appearance of historic window details. Item 3, that the windows shall be recessed a minimum of 2 inches within the wall and shall not be installed flush with the exterior wall. Item 4, the 6/1 divided light patterns on the proposed windows shall be created utilizing exterior raised applied triangular muttons, and that flat muttons or grills between the glass shall not be used. Staff has also added the condition that the smaller single hung windows utilized for the bathrooms and utility rooms have a 3/3 divided light pattern, which would be more consistent with a historic interpretation. Item number 5, that the windows shall utilize clear glass or glass with a clear low E coating, that the tinted highly reflective gray or colored glass shall not be used. Number 6, the doors may utilize clear glass, frosted glass, obscure glass, or glass with a clear low E coating, and that tinted highly reflective gray, colored, etched, or leaded glass shall not be used. Item 7, that the porch post and beam details, bracketed overhangs, and faux vents shall be constructed out of wood or a wood look material and shall be compatible with the wood frame architectural style, reviewed by staff at permitting. Number 8, that the stucco lap siding shall have a texture and profile that is compatible with wood lap siding commonly found on wood frame vernacular structures and shall have no more than a 6-inch reveal. The applicant shall be responsible for contacting HP staff to review and inspect a portion prior to completion. Number 9 is the condition we talked about earlier. Compatibly sized windows or faux openings utilizing closed shutters shall be added to the south massing of the front elevation to avoid a long expanse of blank facade. If faux window openings are utilized, they shall be recessed within the wall. Utilize trim and sill details to match the proportions of other visually related openings. Number 10 is one that we've talked about as well, that a walkway connecting the front door with the sidewalk shall be added. Adjustments to material or design of the front yard may be required to ensure that the front yard impermeable surface totals are not exceeded. Number 11, 12, and 13, we hit on under the zoning review, that the site plan shall be revised to comply with the front yard impermeable maximum. Number 12, that the rear parallel parking space shall be revised to meet the minimum required dimensions. And number 13, that the site data table shall be revised to ensure all calculations are consistent and reflect the conditions depicted on the site plan. This was a earlier rendition, which you can kind of see here is that massing that currently doesn't have anything on it. Staff is recommending that a closed recessed opening with closed shutters or compatibly sized windows be added to that opening. Excuse me, one moment. My notes. That does conclude staff's presentation on this item. I believe that we did have some public comment on this item that I believe will be read into the record, and the applicant is here with us this evening in case you would like to ask him any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hodges. Is the applicant online now? Can we hear from the applicant?
We may need to let Keith know which one is the applicant for this particular case.
It's Manuel.
Manuel Rojas.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Manuel Rojas, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I assume you've been hearing the presentation by Mr. Hodges. Is that correct?
Yes, correct, yes.
All right. Is there anything you would like to add to his presentation?
Everything is fine. The only thing is I was thinking about point number 9, which is the faux window.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I'm not doing this window is because I'm planning to continue the fence of my neighbor, which is a really nice wood fence, keeping the parameters of the fences in the area. So the fence is not drawn in the drawing, but if we continue the fence, which is what I'm planning to do, continue the fence, trying to make a separate backyard on the side of the house. Yes, so if I continue the fence, it's gonna cover all the view on that side of the house, which is missing the faux window, which is point number 9, and the comments that I should install this window. And it's not going to be visible. Nobody's going to look at the window because of the fence. If it is logical in your consideration, it's possible if I make the fence, and nobody's going to look at that side of the wall that is going to be like only the panels. If I can avoid to install the window, otherwise, if it is necessary, well, I just follow instructions.
Okay, I thank you very much for that. We understand that there is a letter or a comment from an affected neighbor. Is that correct, Mr. Hodges?
Yes, I believe Sherry's going to read that to the record for us this evening.
All right, please.
Okay, so can you hear me? I don't think you can see me.
Yes, we can hear you, Sherry.
Okay, so I have actually 1, 2, 3, 4 letters for public comment pertaining to this property, 711 North L Street. The first one is from, and I apologize if I mispronounce your last name, Frank Guglio at 702 North L Street, apartment 18, Lake Worth Beach, Florida. He is against the project, stating simply that when building was removed, I called the city and I was told it was not for sale. The lot would remain green space. Another letter from David Sims, 715 North L Street, apartment number 5, Lake Worth Beach, Florida. Also against the project, stating that when this duplex and rear parking spaces are built, the informal parking spaces on the grass next to the alley will go away. That's understandable, but there is an asphalt space next to Unit 1 of 715 North L Street. That is a residence parking space and it should not be taken away or blocked by construction. Additionally, he would prefer a single dwelling unit be constructed on the site rather than a duplex. Okay, the third letter comes from the property owner of 715 North L Street. The last name, first name eludes me at the moment, but the last name is Benham. And she had questions regarding the construction. Will temporary construction fencing be put in place prior to building to protect the property and vehicles from debris? When will construction start and end? How the hours during the day for noise? Will the construction interfere with tenants parking? 4 in the front on L Street and 1 in the back alley. I believe the question is, will they be able to drive through the alley at that time? The fourth question is, what is the duplex going to be used for? Rentals or owner living in it or an Airbnb? Fifth question, does the owner have sufficient funds to totally finish this construction without starting and stopping? Sixth question, where will equipment be stored? Seventh question, what is the maximum number of people that can reside there? Eighth question, I am also very concerned about hurricane season approaching. What measures will be taken? And the last letter from Rebecca Gilmartin at 714 North L Street. Would like to see the following recommendations added: a deeper overhang in the front or possibly more front porch space. Keep the Bahama shutter on the blank wall, that is a must. Make sure landscaping is added, hiding any parking areas, add palm trees and wooden fence, no chain link fences. And that is what we have as far as public comment at the moment. And that is all that we are in, that I have at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cole.
You're welcome.
I suppose we now open it up to board members with questions. Shall we start with Judith Fox? Any questions?
Yeah, one question I had. One of the conditions you had was to go from the front door to the street, have a sidewalk, not go to the driveway. How does that affect the back unit?
So can you hear me? Am I still on? Okay, I'm sorry.
We hear you, Jordan.
Okay, excellent. So when we review new construction, it's primarily reviewed from the street, basically what is essentially visible from the street. And the design guidelines do have a portion on site plan considerations that talks about, where driveways should be located, where walkways should be located. And there is a portion that discusses that, it was historically appropriate to have, and historically typical to have a pedestrian access from the sidewalk to the front door, allowing, not just vehicular access to the property, but also, human access to the property. As you can see on the screen right now, this is the landscape plan, but you can see it. The driveway is located in this area here, and then you have a walkway that only connects the front door of the structure to that driveway. So staff would want a condition added that continues the walkway to the sidewalk.
I get that, but now we have the back unit. It can't go to the front street.
Oh, no. So the back unit, we haven't conditioned. So if we want to clarify that in the conditions of approval, that it only applied to the front unit, then we can do that. But that was staff's intention, that it only applied to the front.
Okay, and are they going to have separate addresses, or are they going to be A and a B?
It's one lot, so it would be one PCN with an A and a B, or a 1 and a 2, however that's worked out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Judith Fox. Mr. Guthrie, any comments, or not so much comments, any questions for the applicant?
Can you hear me?
Barely. Can you turn your volume up?
I'll try. I had questions about, okay, the applicant, his intention is to put a fence across the expanses where no windows are right now. Does that change staff's view of that in light of the fact that he's trying to make a sort of like a private yard on both of those? It would appear to be both of those areas. And so from the front, you wouldn't be seeing a window anyway. All you'd see is the fence.
Correct.
Sure. So if you look at the site plan here, this is the facade that staff is recommending that some sort of fenestration be put on, and this is the new, I believe, 6-foot tall fence. So when we review change or alterations to a front facade or new construction, it's basically anything that's visible from the street, and typically landscaping and fencing are not taken into account. A fence is a permanent structure, but it certainly doesn't last as long as a building. Future owners, tenants could remove that fence, and then you're obviously left with a blank wall. Site considerations like that, such as landscaping and fences, are typically not taken into consideration.
Okay, so as I'm looking at the floor plan in there, if he were to install a working window, it would probably be ending up on the side of the master bedroom in both of those units. You wouldn't put them in the closet, obviously.
So we added the condition that it be an actual window or just a recessed opening with closed shutters. And I'll kind of show you what that looks like. So this is a project that happened in a nearby city. As you can see in the highlighted squares, this is in the middle of construction. So you can see where the recesses and compatible window trim were applied. And then you just install closed shutters in those locations to add the appearance of a window to break up that long expanse of blank facade, but there actually is no window opening there. That's a pretty common facade treatment.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Guthrie?
Yes, it does. Now, then I would want to go back to, because this is new construction, and they, okay, so go back one slide. Okay, so that is what you're proposing right there, just have something that looks like, but that would have to be recessed into the wall.
Yeah, you would essentially kind of frame it out as you would a window. This is missing the trim. We would recommend that the window trim that is evident on all of the other windows be applied to this. and that the shutters be recessed in the wall to replicate a window opening with closed shutters.
The drawn elevation.
I think that's reasonable. Okay. Now that you've clarified that and what it would actually, I just didn't want to, like a picture of a window on the side of the house.
Sure.
Now am I looking at this right? Is that on one of those facades, it appears that there is it looks like the electric meters or something are there.
Yes,
That would be was that on the front unit or the rear unit?
it's on the back side of the front unit.
Yes,
So
on the
it
back
cannot be
side.
visible from a public way.
Okay, on the back side of the front unit where you are
Yes.
requiring him to put a fake window in there. That's where the
No.
panels are?
The fake window or the actual window would only apply to the east facade, only visible from the street. So he would not be required to do that on the back portion.
I got you. Okay. Thank you. That's all I
And
have.
we can clarify that in the condition if you'd like.
Mr. Dorinzo, any comments or any questions for the applicant?
I'm fine, Mr. Feldkamp.
All right. And Ms. Just, any questions for the applicant?
I just had a question about the impermeable surface.
I can hardly hear you.
I had a question about the impermeable surface in the front.
I cannot hear you, Judith.
Well, I'm not muted. I can't talk any louder. Let's see. Let me see. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Can you increase your volume?
It's at 100%.
No.
At 100%.
Oh, well, we can hear a little bit if you speak loudly.
Okay, I'll try and talk louder. I was just concerned about the impermeable surface in the front. And was that present, or the present numbers based on a solid concrete slab for a driveway?
I could not hear that. Can anyone else hear that and tell us what she said?
That's all right, it's not important.
I think she's asking about the impervious, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
The impervious in the front, if you could explain that again, I'm not sure exactly what the precise question was, but it did have to do with the impervious. Maybe if Jordan could explain it a little bit more.
Okay, so if you look at the chart in front of you for the zoning analysis, the front yard impermeable surface total. So he is allowed to have 250 square foot of impermeable surface in the front. Currently, how that math works out is 255. So that could be remedied, and that includes the existing or the proposed paper driveway and the walkway. How that could be remedied is he could use a semi-pervious material to get a 50% credit, or he could make the driveway a little bit smaller if he didn't want to do that. There's a number of ways that could be reduced or brought into compliance. We have conditioned that item as number 11. So staff would review that at permitting.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
All right, I changed my settings. Okay, good.
All right, I think that's it for comments from members of the board. I have three very minor comments. First one has to do, this is not so much comment as a question for the applicant. Your decorative brackets are correctly shown at the corners of the building. And from looking around at other cottages in town, the second set of brackets would be about half or 2/3 of the way up the slope. So each facade, each entrance facade should have 4 decorative brackets rather than 2 in pretty much that order. If maybe we can take care of that at permitting. Second item that I have, I wonder if we can do a little bit better than the 6-panel colonial for the front door. There are some other door types that are available. And again, perhaps that could be taken care of at permitting. And then the other is just a drawing issue. The front east elevation in several of these drawings appears to show a hip roof rather than a gable roof for the back section. I assume it is nothing more than a drawing error, but
Yes.
it should be corrected.
Yeah, it's a drawing error.
And that's all the questions I have. Is there any anything that we missed asking the applicant? Is the applicant?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, and you've understood the comments that we've had?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Bill, I have one question on that fence that you're going to put in front of there where the window is. What kind of fence is that you're talking about?
Yeah, if we move into the picture, which is the picture of my neighbor, we can see that one. Yeah, that one. The picture on the left. That fence. I'm planning to continue the same fence. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Good. Okay. We have to ask for comments from the public. If there is any public comment, I kind of doubt it. So now I guess we go to questions and discussion. We'll close the public section and go into executive session here. Any questions from board members?
Mr. Feldkamp, it's Chip Guthrie.
Yes, Chip.
On your suggestion of the decorative brackets, could we ask the applicant if he is okay with adding those? Because I think you made an excellent point with that.
Oh. Is the applicant okay with adding?
Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem at all. It will look fine. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. All right.
Does that need to be made part of the recommendations or no?
Probably if we get a motion, we could take a quick look at the conditions and see if that needs to be adjusted at the time.
Okay.
I just have a question. This is Judith Duss. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. You mentioned changing the door. Can you clarify that a bit more? I mean, it's kind of vague.
The entrance door, the 6-panel colonial.
Yeah. You said to make
there are others. We see a lot of 15 light glass. We see a lot of single light or 9 light glass. Again, Mr. Hodges, do you want to, again, is that something that you could take care of at permitting?
It is, but I would, if that is a change that you would like to see, I would like to add it as a condition.
And how does the applicant feel about that?
It's okay. The thing is, when I was thinking about to install the door, trying to make it fit the parameters of the board, and looking at the pictures, there is the pictures from the models from the vernacular, wood vernacular, and looking also at the market, with my vendor. The 6 panels is the one which is very common and very easy to find. Yeah. The other thing is we can work together to see some other options, but but because when I see the pictures, exactly the pictures, which is in the models of the wood vernacular, they are very difficult to find exactly the same ones in the market. So I can give some options, yes, and we can find together a better door. If you,
Okay.
yeah. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I do not feel so terribly strongly about that, but if you and Mr. Hodges can work something out, fine. If you can't, fine. Mr. Dorinzo.
Mr. Feldkamp, I understand your reasoning regarding the door. I think you're trying to avoid the inexpensive doors look from Home Depot that everybody uses with that type of door, and basically looking for an upgrade. When you referred to the brackets, adding those 2 other decorative brackets, that's just pertaining to the front facade, not the rear one also? Okay,
Yes.
just want to clarify that also, because don't need to put brackets on the back if nobody sees them.
Exactly.
Okay, just
And my
clarifying.
question, Bill, was parking. Is there enough with on-street and in the back and in the curb cuts, and is all that right, Jordan?
Currently, all required parking is located on site. There is no off-street parking counted.
Okay, thank you.
That next door neighbor is going to lose his free parking space, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I hear a motion?
Chip, you want to do it?
Sure, I'll go ahead. I move to approve HRPB project number 20-001-000067 with staff recommended conditions for the certificate of appropriateness for the new construction of a plus or minus 2,245 square foot 2-family structure at 711 North L Street based upon the competent substantial evidence in the staff report and pursuant to the City of Lake Worth Beach land development regulations and historic preservation requirements. The conditions listed on the conditions of approval, with the addition of the 2 additional brackets on the front facing facade on the gable end. And the compatible size window or faux opening is already number 9, so we don't have to address that. And then staff to review a different door than the 6-panel one that is proposed. Is that also only on the front?
Yes.
Yes.
On the front facade. That's my motion.
Can I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any additional information? I do agree with Mr. Hodges that the faux window or the shuttered opening is necessary, even though we have the fence coming. The fence is not part of this particular contract. So, all right, well, we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And thank you, Mr. Rojas, for your project here in the city of Lake Worth Beach. Okay, shall we now go on to 921 Lake Avenue? And Mr. Hodges, if you could bring us up to date on 921 Lake Avenue.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is Jordan Hodges. I'll be presenting this item, which is HRPB project number 19-00000011. It is a revision request to retroactively approve alterations to a previously approved mural installation for the contributing structure located at 921 Lake Avenue. Okay, So the property owner is requesting approval to retroactively permit alterations to a mural approved at the January 8th, 2020 HRPB meeting. The mural as installed exceeds the scope of the approval and is in conflict with several conditions included in the development order. The mural was also installed prior to applying for a City of Lake Worth Beach building permit. The subject property is located in the downtown zoning district and retains a future land use of downtown mixed use. Just a quick recap on the building. The two-story structure was constructed circa 1930. Was included in the 2001 designation report for the Old Town District as a masonry vernacular building. Although no architectural drawings of the building are available, this is a property card from 1944, which points out some character-defining features. The original uses for the building were stores and apartments and offices. And this was the building right before the January meeting. As you can see, this is the front here on Lake Avenue, and this is the side where the mural was proposed. The original part of the building, again, will be this portion right here, which is where the mural was proposed. You can see the original part due to the parapet configuration. This was likely a mission revival structure when it was originally designed, and then all of this to the rear is an addition. The mural, or this was the mural proposal presented at the January 8th meeting. And according to the artist, the forest mural depicts mythological aspects of Mayan and Mexican culture with some Turkish symbolism. And the mural was, this was where the mural was, or the, excuse me, the artist rendering of the mural that went before the board. Okay, so during board discussion, it was determined that the mural should not obscure the decorative parapet and the window openings. Staff's recommendations 6, 7, and 8 were also included in the motion to approve the request. Also, a final condition of approval was added by the board that the sidewalk be protected during the work process to prevent permanent damage from the paint application. And these were all pretty standard. Item 1, that the previously unpainted masonry and windows shall not be painted, that the approval didn't include any physical alterations, that prior to the mural being installed, that a City of Lake Worth building permit shall be applied for and received. Number 4 is the time extension granted in accordance with code. Number 5 was that a mural removal agreement shall be entered in between the applicant and the City of Lake Worth Beach. Number 6 was included, that the mural terminate before it reaches the decorative parapet. Number 7 was that the mural extend the full length of the east elevation. And number 8, that the mural's focal point, the tree, be repositioned to ensure the window opening does not obscure it. So we'll flip back to that. Again, this is what staff was working off of. So as you can see here in the center, that is where that tree was proposed. Since the windows were not supposed to be painted, staff recommended that the tree be repositioned. And then staff recommended that the mural be applied to the full length of this plane and not terminate at these, these locations, that they extend to this and to this area, and that the decorative parapet not be painted. This is the mural that was installed. It was installed on the full length of the west elevation beyond the approved dimensions and prior to submitting an application for a building permit. And the applicant is requesting approval currently of the mural as it is installed in the photographs. These are additional photos that provide a closer look at some of the details. As you can see, several windows on the west facade and doors were painted during the installation. And here you can, is a view seen from North L Street towards Lake Avenue. There is a portion here on the rear that did not receive any paint treatment, as you can see it in white. Okay. So following conditions, or the following conditions of approval were not adhered to in the following order. Number one, again, was that the previously unpainted masonry and windows shall not be painted. Windows and doors were painted in defiance of that condition. Number three, that prior to the mural being installed, the applicant shall apply for a building permit. That was not done either. Number six, that the mural shall terminate before it reaches the decorative parapet. The mural currently covers the parapet. Number seven, that the mural shall extend the full length of the west elevation. So the mural extends the entire length of the west elevation, the structure, beyond the proposed plane of the mural area. And again, that was in this artist rendering. What staff was intending to mean by that was that it extend only to the old portion of the building, that it fill up this whole facade and not terminate here, not that it necessarily take up the entire building. And then number eight, that the mural's focal point, which was the tree, shall be repositioned to ensure that a window opening does not obscure it. And when it was painted, the mural's focal point was not repositioned and a window was painted over. The added condition number nine, that the sidewalk shall be protected. They are in compliance with that condition. Okay. So staff has modified the previously approved conditions of approval for consistency with the previous board approval, specifically that the paint application shall be removed from the windows and doors. Staff does defer to the board to determine if the paint shall be removed from the decorative parapet and from the previously unapproved portion of the west rear facade, which would be this area here. So these are the conditions of approval currently. Again, that the mural paint application shall be removed from the windows and doors, which would include the surface of the glass, frame, and screens, and that any unpainted masonry building materials, which I don't believe were the case, be the paint removed. And the applicant shall be responsible for contacting HP staff to review and inspect the mural during the permitting process. Number two, the approval does not include any physical alterations, again, to the building aside from paint removal or application. Number three, that unless a time extension is granted, this approval shall expire from 1 year. And again, four, that the sidewalk shall be protected during the work process. Again, that concludes staff's presentation of this item. The applicant is here with us this evening and can answer any any questions. I believe that we have also received some written public comment for this item. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hodges. Is the applicant, Mr. Serter, here? Can we hear from Mr. Serter, please?
Myself, thank you very much. Good afternoon, evening for Mr. Chairman and the board members and the staff. The staff really put everything in very good detail explanation. Basically what happened is, honestly, it is not always very easy to communicate and control the artistic, interpretation of the artists. That's what happened here. And he was a Portuguese artist who has he's a very established artist. He had some murals and also other artistic expressions in Portugal and Brazil. And he did what he did, but we got very positive feedbacks and, from the community when it was during the process of the application and now from that moment on. What I would ask kindly from the board is that removing the paint from basically on the main portion of the mural, just removing the paint from them will alter the integrity of the mural. We didn't do anything in terms of physically altering with the windows. So the windows are still there, the frames are there. But I agree with the stuff that on some pictures they also showed that the the glass on the doors were painted. As yes, the one on the left. We were also same. We are thinking the same way that they should be removed from the glass on the doors, but especially on the left side, on the north side of the wall, where the main picture is. When we remove the paintings from the glasses, I think it will just create a bunch of holes in the art, and it is essentially, it is a beautiful piece. And we applied some sealant on top of it, so it is going to be there for a very long time, we hope. And it's a very good entrance into the historic district of the Lake Worth. And it also complemented, I think, the front facade of the building, which is very beautiful. The ball is on your court.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hodges, you say that there are some comments from neighbors. Could you bring us up to date on that?
I believe Sherry Cole will read those into the record.
Thank you.
I have one comment at the moment, and it is from Gail Silverblatt, 414 North Ocean Breeze, Lake Worth Beach, Florida. She is against the revision. It says, "Dear staff and board members, I am contacting you to comment on the request to retroactively approve alterations to the previously approved mural at 921 Lake Avenue. I support this mural as it is without making the changes staff is recommending. It is not a mural of color squares or rectangles, nor a wall with large block letters spelling out a word or two. It is a beautifully painted mural of a narrative nature. I realized from reading the backup material that the windows and doors were not supposed to be painted, nor the mural to reach to the top of the building covering the parapet, but it is a completed mural and would lose some of its artistic message if these changes were made now. The completed mural fits the style of the architecture of the parapet and enhances it instead of taking away from it. I have designed and painted murals in Lake Worth Beach, including a 30 by 40 foot mural in 1994 on the Island Water Sports Building across from the post office with 28 volunteers. I know the amount of effort this artist used. He did a great job and should be applauded for his work. This is the type of mural that should be encouraged in our city." And that is the only comment that I have.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cole.
You're welcome.
Is there any other public comment? Anyone who may have tuned into this? Hearing none. Board members, do you have questions for Mr. Serter? We'll start with Bob Dorinzo.
I'm okay with what we're discussing. Why wasn't the back piece painted, the missing strip in the back of the building?
Oh, it was basically, it is going to be completed. It is basically the painter ran out of paint. It is going to be completed, but just no particular reason. It's simple as that, unfortunately.
All right. No, it's a great color.
So it's going to be painted the same color. Of course, it is just.
Okay. Now, the windows that were painted, are they functional?
Yes, but the thing is, yes, the both windows, they are functional. And the thing is, if you look from the inside, the paint itself does not provide the entrance of the sunlight. So it is
okay. So you could see through them.
Yes, you can see through them.
And you wouldn't have any problem scraping the paint off the doors that we're looking at?
No, especially because on the one like you see on the left, it's we like to remove that paint from that glass on that door.
Okay, I'm good.
Thank you. Judith Just.
I think the mural looks great. I don't think you should remove the paint from the windows because I think it's going to break up the whole mural. And I don't even think you need to remove it from the doors. As far as the parapet goes, it still stands out. It's not obscured. I think it looks great. I've heard comments from other people just driving by and seeing it and going, wow, look at that. You are the owner of the property? Or are you a tenant?
Oh, we are the owner of the building.
And you're going to put a Mexican restaurant in the...
Yes, it's going to be a Mexican Turkish fusion restaurant, And we were actually very close opening it. We were with the state, with the restaurant permits and everything, licenses and everything. But what happened now is just put us on a free frozen station now.
And
But
the
yes,
tenant doesn't have any problem with the windows being painted, correct?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Your voice comes very.
Does the tenant have a problem with the windows being painted?
No, there is no tenant. We are the owner, and we are going to be the owner of the restaurant too.
And so you don't have a problem with it. They're functional, so I don't have a problem. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Judith Just. Judith Fox.
Yeah, the one question was to the finishing of the painting in the back, which you have already answered.
Yes, yes.
The other one, does painting the windows, I don't know, maybe Jordan can answer this, is that a fire hazard? I mean, why?
Why did we recommend
why can we not paint them?
So, I mean, it's a historic preservation issue because it masks the fenestration of the building. It is a historic building. Typically, architectural features such as parapets, windows, doors, any kind of decorative moldings are typically left out of a mural and left to stand on their own.
Okay, then I just have one other thing to say. If you go and you get okayed for a certain thing and you don't do it, then it's okay?
I'm sorry?
You come and we tell you what the parameters are, and you don't pay any attention to them, but it's okay.
Well, that's why we're back here. So they're requesting a revision to install it or to get an approval essentially as installed.
Fait accompli.
I'm sorry?
Fait accompli.
Yeah.
Sure.
Chip Guthrie, comments or questions for the owner?
I appreciate board member Judy's comments. Yeah, go ahead and do whatever you want, and then you know, it falls underneath the is easier or better to ask for forgiveness than for permission.
Permission, exactly.
You know, there's a couple things. By covering the parapet, you know, in my opinion, if they had dropped short and left that white, I think that would have been less aesthetically pleasing than what is there now. So, I mean, I know we made these recommendations. Okay, now when we told them that we needed to move the tree so that the windows were not in the way, and basically they gave us the middle finger on that one and put the tree right where the windows are. We've had this issue before on other murals as well, that it's maybe us non-artists, artistic types should maybe not even venture into this, because it's you know, we had one with a mural on a fence, and the guy showed us what we thought was going to be a typical idea of it, but no, it was just, you know, that 10 or 18 feet of fence, and that was it. And we kind of thought that he was going to take that whole idea throughout the entire fence. This one here, there's also, I don't know if you consider the plant image on the further south portion of it, is that considered a mural as well? I mean, that wasn't discussed. And we did want him to extend the mural beyond the parameters of what, you know, what he was showing before. It just kind of ticks me off. It's like, why even bother with this stuff? I can't see removing the paint from the windows. You know, I think, you know, Jordan, I know what you're talking about, and it is part of the historic nature of that building. Do we happen to have the agreement, Jordan, that they signed for the removal of the mural?
Yes.
That was submitted prior to the execution of the mural. Yes, we do have that.
Is there any verbiage in that says if you fail to paint the mural as conditioned, that, you know, that you'd be required to remove it or alter it or anything like that?
We're checking on that right now. It's 1 second.
the board actually addressed the tree being right in the middle of the window, and we actually took pains to do that, and they could have shifted the whole painting over. And then one of the things before we even started into the discussion of this thing, I was thinking, well, this is coming back at this particular time, which is a really tough time for anybody in the restaurant business, especially if somebody hasn't really opened yet. It's like, we shouldn't even be discussing this, but I for one am not going to be, hardened to make them take anything back down again at this particular time in our history, because it may not be pleasing. The windows, I didn't care for the design before because of the windows in the middle of it. So that they painted over it, it actually does complete the mural. And I guess I would be for allowing them to keep it as it is. But I would like to know if there is something in the verbiage, or if we can add something in the text of future agreements that state, basically they have if they don't follow the rules, they have to paint right back over it again or something. I don't know. A little disgusted with this. That's all I've got to say at the moment.
Okay,
Mr.
thank you,
Chair.
Jeff.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair. Can I say
Yes,
something?
yes.
You
Yeah.
don't need the mural removal agreement for that. You gave them an approval, and if you don't meet the conditions of the approval, then it goes away. And that's why they're back, because they did not meet the conditions of the approval. Now, you have an opportunity to say, okay, we'll quote unquote forgive you for it and let it stand, but you could equally say, this is what we approved the last time, we're not approving anything else, and they would be required to paint over this in a solid color.
And if we did say that, what lever do we have to require to make sure that they do it? Do we withhold the certificate of occupancy for the restaurant, or what leverage do we have?
They did apply for a building permit after the fact. That permit is currently in a failed status until it is brought into compliance. Compliance, again, can mean a couple different things. It can mean saying no to the revision request, or it can mean approving it with the new conditions of approval. But that permit will remain in failed status until an action is taken.
And does that mean that the property cannot be used as a restaurant?
No.
No, it does not mean that. So in fact, we really do not have a lot of leverage on this. It could remain in a failed state for years.
It would be a violation of the city's code. We could start a code case against them. I think we could, if we really wanted to, we could go to court and require them to take it down. We could take it down ourselves. I believe, I'm not sure what the removal agreement says, but I know that it does say that once it starts looking bad,
yes.
That if they don't take it down, we can do that. I don't know if the removal agreement contemplates not complying with the permit.
Gotcha. Let me put my 2 cents in here. I have to agree with Mr. Guthrie on a number of things. First, I do not have a problem with going up to the top of the parapet, nor do I have a problem with the windows painted. I do think it was gutsy of this artist to, without his permit, without anything, painting that entire back section of the building with that huge plant. I would like to see that entire back section painted out, whether it's painted out with that bright red orange that it is, or painted out with a different color. But we did not approve that large plant on the back, on the right side of the building. And I think it should be removed. The artist very specifically gave us a drawing of what he wanted to do. It was rectangle, and it ended with just a little past that white tree. And everything else is not part of their approval at all. That would be my thought.
I don't have a problem with the art. I mean, I think it's pretty. I have a problem with, as Chip said, I mean, they got approved for one thing and they just, you know, thumbed their nose at us and went ahead and did whatever the heck they wanted. How do we avoid this happening in the future?
And how do we make an example of this such that no one does do it in the future?
Don't know.
Well, I
Is
just
anyone
wanna
else
say-
interested in asking that the right section of the building be painted out a single color?
Why?
Yeah, it's pretty.
I think it looks nice. I think
Yes,
punish him for what happened is not really right. If you want to make it more restrictive in the future, we can do that. But then you're also going to lose the latitude to approve things if it is a nice piece of art. This is a nice piece of art. It's not a crummy looking mural like we've seen on some buildings. So do you really want to restrict ourselves from being able to approve something? I know a lot of artists, they like to have the freedom to kind of do their art. And I think that kind of goes with the territory if you're allowing murals to be painted and artists to do it. And we know the artists here are kind of funky artists. They're going to come back to us probably for approvals because they're going to deviate from what they wrote. And that seems to be how artists are. But that's just my opinion. I think if you're going to become very restrictive, to me, this is personally a non-issue. There are bigger things we need to worry about than this mural. The mural looks great. He painted over the windows. The owner doesn't care. He's going to open the restaurant. It looks nice. And he's going to put a Mexican restaurant in there. Do you want to be punitive and punish him? Really? That's just my opinion.
okay, well, can I get a motion, please?
Chairman,
Yes.
if you wouldn't mind, I would like to go through the current conditions of approval one more time.
All right.
Just so we can do that. The current condition of approval number 1 is that the mural paint application shall be removed from the windows and doors. And that includes the surface of the glass, the frame and the screens, and any previously or masonry building materials, unpainted brick, coral stone, oolithic limestone. I don't believe that applies. In that first sentence, it would just be to the windows and doors. And then the applicant shall be responsible for contacting historic preservation staff to review and inspect that process. Number 2, this application does not include any physical alterations to the building. Number 3, unless a time extension is granted, the applicant this application shall expire within 1 year, and the sidewalk shall be protected. So staff did not condition it that the parapet painting be removed, and staff did defer to the board in regards to the previously unimproved mural space. So I just wanted to let you know where staff was at right now, moving into your motion.
Okay, thank you.
Chair,
Yes.
it's Chip Guthrie.
Yes,
Jordan, the one I'm looking at also goes on to 6, 7, and 8. They would recommend that the mural terminate below the decorative parapet.
That was the prior, was it not?
Yeah, so these were the conditions of approval from the January meeting, the initial conditions.
I'm
We're
sorry.
only yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, I stand corrected.
So if we flip to the page that we're on now, these are the current conditions.
Okay, so if what I hear from the rest of the board is correct, we are going to not require condition number 1.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, they did not apply for a building permit, but the permit is being held up, I guess, based on us. It's a little strange. It's like they should offer the permit, but they need an inspection or something on it. So that's all right. It's what it is. We would eliminate Why does it jump from 3 to 6 here? Am I looking something else again? Oh, the mural shall
Yeah.
terminate
the
before.
back.
Okay, we would not impose number 6.
I believe you're still on the,
No, you're
That's
still
the
on
other-
the,
From the back.
Go
Go
into
to con-
conclusion.
you want me to
The
do it?
Conditions of approval
Yes,
are on page 8 of your staff report. So if you turn to page 8 of your staff report,
Yeah. I see
after
it.
conclusion, those are the current conditions of approval. There are 4.
I apologize. I
Mr. Lorenzo,
Bob,
Mr.
you want to
Lorenzo,
take
do
it?
you want to make the motion?
I'm sorry.
Would you like to make the motion?
Sure. I move to approve HRPB project number 1900000011 revision with the staff recommendations of the request to retroactively permit alterations to the mural installed on the contributing structure located at 921 Lake Avenue based upon competent substantial evidence provided in the staff report and pursuant to the City of Lake Worth Land Development Regulation, excluding condition number 1.
Excluding condition number 1. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Seconded by Judith Just. Any other discussion?
I have one question. In number 3, it says this application shall expire 1 year from Historic Resource Preservation Board approval. That is on every mural in our municipality, correct?
that is for, they have to complete it and final out the building permit within a year.
Within a year. Now, since that is a year, do all these murals come back to the board as far as, okay, a year has gone by, 2 years gone by? No, so those,
That condition is only for the length of the approval. So say an applicant would get approved for a mural, they have 1 year to apply for a building permit, do the mural, and close out the building permit.
so
There
that
is
mural,
no time limit on how long a mural can be up.
okay, so those murals could stay indefinitely in our municipality.
Until if they started looking bad or were poorly maintained, the mural removal agreement could be, did I just get muted?
I mean, it's just my opinion. I think once we go a little, once we get past what we're dealing with nowadays, but I think in the future, there should be some type of time limit on these things for it to come back in front of the board as we grow as a city. I just think we should reflect on what's painted on all these buildings in our downtown.
Okay, and that's certainly something that we could look into.
Mural review board, I don't know.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a motion, we have a second. If there's no other comments, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. So 4-1.
Does
Motion
that
passed.
include the painting of that white spot? Did we say that has to be done?
That is not-
Staff will make sure that that's finished.
Oh, okay.
All right, let's move along. Next agenda item is 246 Vanderbilt Drive. The owner is Aletha Hoff, and Mr. Hodges, can you give us the story on 246 Vanderbilt Drive?
Where? Okay. Is that showing? One moment, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. We're good. It's good. Okay, again, this is Jordan Hodges. This is item number C, HRPB project number 20-001-00078. And this is a consideration of a COA for the removal of an existing driveway and the installation of a new driveway in the front yard of the property located at 246 Vanderbilt Drive. The subject property is a contributing resource to the College Park Local Historic District and is located in the single-family residential zoning district. The property owner, again, is requesting approval to remove an existing driveway off of Pennsylvania Drive and to install a new driveway on Princeton Drive. The subject property is a 75-foot by 88.73-foot parcel comprised of 3 platted lots of record located at the northeast corner of Vanderbilt Drive and Pennsylvania Drive in Lake Worth Beach. Again, the subject property is in the single-family residential zoning district and retains a future land use designation of single-family residential. Again, the structure on this property was designed in 1948 by prominent Florida architect Arthur L. Weeks. The single-family residence is designed in a masonry vernacular architectural style, and city building permit records indicate that the structure utilizes masonry construction with a smooth stucco exterior finish, an asbestos shingle hip roof, a small open air integral front porch, and a rear detached 1-car garage. Here on the property file documentation, you can see the original outline of the house, and this is that rear detached garage. In 1949, again, Arthur L. Weeks designed a laundry room addition that connected the residence to the detached garage. In 1991, the garage was converted into a family room. City permit records indicate that the structure has had alterations over time, including permits for a new in-ground swimming pool, roof replacement with asphalt shingles, window replacement, and fencing. Again, that property file documentation was included as attachment C in the board packet. But as you can see here on the property file documentation, this is a drawing from when the laundry room was approved. And that laundry room sort of acts as a hyphen right here, connecting the garage and connecting the house. This is a current property survey showing the location of the existing 2-car driveway with vehicular access from Pennsylvania Drive. So again, you have Vanderbilt here, which is the front of the house, and a driveway leading off of Pennsylvania Drive. So this driveway used to lead directly to this, what used to be a 1-car garage. Again, since then, to recap in permitting history, the garage has been turned into a living room and an in-ground swimming pool has been installed in a location between the old garage and Pennsylvania Drive. This is the property as it sits today. The first photo shows the proposed driveway location. That's the image on the left. And the second photo is taken from the corner of Pennsylvania and Vanderbilt. These photos show the existing 2-car driveway off of Pennsylvania Drive. As you can see in this photo here, there has been a fence installed right here at the building setback line. And this used to be the vehicular entry into the 1-car garage that's now a family room. As indicated in the proposed site plan, the existing 17.5 by 16.9 foot driveway fronting Pennsylvania Drive is proposed to be removed and replaced with living ground cover. And a proposed 20 by 29.5 foot driveway is proposed to be installed in the in the front yard of the residence with vehicular access from Vanderbilt. So again, this is where that existing driveway is being removed. This is where the new proposed driveway would be installed. So the proposed new driveway is consistent with all site data requirements in the zoning code. And the existing driveway fronting Pennsylvania Drive is proposed to be removed and replaced with living ground cover. The new driveway is proposed to utilize a semi-pervious pavers, and historic preservation staff will review the material for appropriateness during the building permit review process. And again, per LDR section 23.1-12, for semi-pervious surface materials, 2 square feet of semi-pervious material shall be equivalent to 1 square foot of impervious surface for the purpose of calculating development regulation requirements for permitted administrative or conditional uses. So by utilizing semi-pervious materials, the total area calculation of impermeable surface for the new driveway is reduced to 295 square feet. And the front yard impermeable surface total for the property is 553 square feet. So the proposed site plan indicates that 410 square feet of the front yard will be impermeable, which is in compliance with the zoning requirement. However, pursuant to LDR section 23.3-7C58, which says, provided, however, that the lesser of 900 square feet or 75% of the front yard shall remain pervious and be landscaped. The landscaping for the property will need to be evaluated to ensure that it meets the minimum requirements of section 23.6-1, which are the landscape regulations. And staff has added a condition of approval that the final review and approval of the landscaping will take place during the building permit review process. This is a bit of an aerial showing the context of neighboring properties. This would be the property here where your pin is. To the north of the property, they have a 1-car wide driveway leading directly to a detached garage off of Pennsylvania Avenue. To the south here, they have a 2-car wide driveway leading directly to a front-facing integral garage on Vanderbilt. Or they have, excuse me. Yes, 2-car wide driveway leading directly to a front-facing integral garage on Vanderbilt. To the east of the structure, which would be right here, they have a 1-car wide driveway leading directly to a rear garage, which you can see over here on the side. And then to the west at this property right here, they have a 1-car wide circular driveway with vehicular access from Pennsylvania and Vanderbilt. And they also have a 1-car wide driveway leading to a front-facing integral garage on Vanderbilt. The city's historic preservation design guidelines provide guidance for landscaping and site features in the historic districts, and driveways and walkways can enhance or detract from the character of a historic property and street. Historically, narrow concrete or paver walkways provided an important connection between the street, sidewalk, and front door of a house as they connect the public and private realms. Traditional 1-car wide ribbon driveways, which you'll see up here in the top image, are the most common type of historic driveway in Lake Worth and result in a more permeable area for water percolation into the soil. Per the design guidelines, driveways within historic districts should be located to the side of a house unless directly leading to a carport or garage. It is rarely appropriate for a driveway to terminate at the front facade of a single-family house. Typically, driveways more than 1 car wide and/or circular driveways are inappropriate in residential historic districts as they pave significant areas of the front yard. They are historically inaccurate, and they give unwanted prominence to the automobile, which can obscure the view of a building. Again, historically, it is atypical for driveways to be 2 spaces wide and terminate at the front setback of a single-family residence. City building permit records indicate that parking for this property has historically been located in the rear or in a rear garage with access from Pennsylvania Drive. Over time, the garage has been repurposed into additional living space, and an in-ground pool has been installed between the garage and the street. These alterations have eliminated the original parking configuration from the parcel. As there is no visible garage, there is no longer the typical proximity and function between the garage and the parking spaces. The proposed driveway is located in the front yard and is largely side-loaded to the existing structure. This configuration would allow parking closer to the principal access point to the structure. So based on the property survey, the proposed 20 by 29.5 foot wide driveway will overlap with the southeast corner of the front facade. You can see that would be right here if it's dimensioned out. The length of the proposed driveway also extends to the front setback of the building, which is typical for commercial and multifamily structures within the historic districts, but atypical for single-family residences. The width and length of the proposed driveway is also generally greater than what is necessary to accommodate 2 off-street parking spaces. Staff has added conditions of approval to reduce the size of the driveway from 20 by 29.5 to 18 by 18. An 18-foot by 18-foot driveway set 1 foot from the east property line will eliminate the overlap of the driveway and the front facade of the structure. Terminating the driveway at 18 feet in length instead of the proposed 29.5 feet will also create a lawn or landscape buffer between the driveway and the front facade of the structure, which is more compatible for single-family residences. As there is no longer a relationship between the garage and the parking, and with the staff conditions limiting the size, material type, and required landscaping, the proposed new driveway located in the front yard meets the minimum threshold to qualify as an appropriate improvement for the particular property and generally compatible with the surrounding historic district. Should the board find that the driveway location is compatible, again, staff has included conditions of approval to configure the driveway in the most historically compatible manner. This is a mock-up of an option that could be approved per staff recommendations. This one utilizes a ribbon driveway configuration, but the applicant could choose to utilize a paver pad in the same dimensions, granted all impermeable surface requirements are met. But please note that the 18 by 18 configuration, the driveway does terminate before it reaches the facade of the structure. In the applicant's current request, the driveway would be 20 by 29.5 foot paver pad that terminates at the front building setback line. The proposed driveway, again, is consistent with the city's land development regulations as conditioned. As there is no longer a relationship between the garage and the parking, and with staff conditions limiting the size, material type, and required landscaping, the proposed new driveway location in the front yard would be deemed compatible by staff. Therefore, staff recommends approval with conditions to allow construction of the new driveway. Again, staff has added 5 conditions of approval: that the applicant shall apply for a Lake Worth Beach building permit and a right-of-way permit application. 2, that final review and approval of landscaping will take place during the building permit review process. Item 3, that the proposed new driveway shall utilize a semi-purpose material subject to staff review at permitting. Number 4, the driveway dimensions shall be reduced to 18 foot to 18 feet to comply with the minimum parking dimensions for 2 parking spaces, and that a ribbon driveway design in lieu of a pad may also be utilized to minimize the visual impact of a 2-car wide driveway. Condition number 5, that the driveway be set back 1 foot from the east property line to allow for adequate water runoff. That does conclude staff's presentations. I don't believe there was any written public comments submitted, but we can check with the board secretary for that. I believe the applicant, Ms. Hoff, is here with us this evening to give her testimony or add any comment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hodges. Can we hear from Mrs. Hoff? Ms. Hoff.
Yes, thank you very much. So in requesting this, part of the reason I ended up originally requesting this is when I purchased the property, it became evident to me that the driveway that currently exists with the fencing is not a safe distance from the in-ground pool and was evidently a hazard when you would go through the gate. You were very close to the pool, and if you misstepped, you literally could go head first into the pool, which could be very, very concerning. And so in looking to move it, part of the reason I would like the larger driveway is twofold. Number one, I actually would like an unencumbered path when I'm taking my garbage cans out through the gate to the street. Right now, I kind of have to 4-wheel it because I have to go through grass right now. And so My understanding was that if I met the pervious to impervious with regards to the ratios, then the size of it would be okay. Secondly, my disabled daughter lives with me, and having a wider, more generous driveway would allow greater distance in between the car, making it a little easier for pathways walking to and from the house, especially at nighttime. And with regard to the setback, that isn't a problem. And I'm even willing to consider just taking it to the house. I think the original sketch that was given, essentially some of the footage went overlapped the house, and running up to the house, I think would be fair. But that's the method to my madness. That's why I was asking for it to be longer, so that when I did come out of the gate with all of the trash cans and such that roll, it's just easier to get them in and out. And to be honest, all of my neighbors, everybody's driveway goes right to their garage. I don't have the benefit of a garage. That was changed well before I bought the property. And so I kindly asked the board to consider granting this. And I have no problem with working on landscaping. I love greenery. I have a lot. I've already improved the property since I bought it. I put Kalusia all the way around the property. I love flowers. And so I have no problem working with anyone with regard to putting appropriate landscaping up and to make sure we have appropriate drainage. But I think having the longer driveway would be most helpful to me as I think of functionality. And pavers, I thought, would be the nicer way to go. I'm very much about wanting to stay in the neighborhood and integrate the design, so it doesn't look like you're modernizing it so much that you stick out. You want my house in Chicago was 125 years old. I love taking things and restoring them. So I kindly ask you to consider that aspect of it.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that clarification. Is there any communication from affected owners or any public comment? Mr. Hodges?
One second, Mr. Chairman, I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
Had a little technical issue there. Ms. Cole, Sherry, were there any call-ins or any public comment for this item?
No, we have no comment on this project.
Okay. Well, then we'll have questions from board members. Who would like to start questions for the owner?
I have a question. Judith Just, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, sometimes you're very
Okay.
clear and sometimes you're muffled.
Okay, sorry. What about a walkway from the parking area to the front door? Were you going to install something there?
A walkway from the existing driveway or from the new driveway?
The proposed driveway.
As of right now, the consideration is to leave the lawn as it is and to put a few paver stones. There's already a walkway from the front sidewalk leading to the front porch.
Mm-hmm.
So the thought process would be to put little stepping stones, little round stepping stones from the driveway to the current sidewalk as it exists.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious if you're going to put in a sidewalk or just pavers. That's my only question.
Okay, thank you. Other questions from board members? Any other questions?
Chip Guthrie here.
Chip, you had
I'd
a
like to
question?
ask, Ms. Hoff, I'd like to ask you if you saw in the presentation from staff, the depiction of the ribbon style driveways. That is that isn't going to be convenient for you on, because of the running of the receptacles out?
It's not going to be convenient for a couple of reasons. It doesn't provide a singular flat surface. I would be concerned about tripping or my daughter tripping, coming and going from our automobiles at night, because you will have different levels. The idea for me was to have one singular plane to walk on, which would provide the safest, and I think nicer looking option.
Staff is recommending that the driveway stop approximately 10 feet short of the house. The gate that you run your garbage cans through is in that fence directly ahead in this view, right?
Yes, sir.
Is it, if you stopped at 10 feet, would you still want to have a walkway from that driveway to your gate?
Well, the potentially, I didn't consider that, to be honest with you, because I had hoped that the pavers would run all the way up to there to be to allow for me to remove my cans in and out in a very seamless pattern. So I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, obviously, if it did not extend, I would obviously have to prepare some sort of path to get in and out of that gate.
Do you ever enter the house through that gate?
No, sir, I don't enter the house through the gate. I usually enter through my front entrance.
Mhm.
And sometimes, well, not now because we're under construction, we're getting new curbs and sidewalks. So I don't have the ability to enter through the back. But no, basically, when you go through that gate, it's the storage. There's 2 storage sheds there, the receptacles for the recycling, and my garbage can, the air conditioning pad, and then I have a lot of greenery and landscaping along the side. I think if on this sketch here, if you go through, basically everything through the back is all paver stone, and then you can enter the back part of the house, which used to be the garage. There's an entrance and an exit on that in that particular structure as well, and then it wraps around, and then you can enter the backyard by the pool deck. So it would be a very long, convoluted path if I wanted to go into my house that way. Literally coming and going through that way essentially is to take the trash in and out. I don't use it as a primary way to get in and out of my house.
So if we were to retain the 18 by 18 foot pad that staff suggests, but give you a 4-foot walkway from that pad just to the gate, would that answer your need?
At a bare minimum, it probably would, but I would also like to add that I'm a first responder and that I have to leave at a moment's notice on call. And so when I get the call, I'm an anesthesia provider. When I get the call, I have 30 minutes to be at the hospital. And so a lot of times depending on where I am, I come and go and need to leave quite urgently. So my preference would be to have the driveway extend all the way to the house with the pavers. And my understanding is that I've already met the requirements of the square footage versus pervious and impervious, as well as the front yard ratio. So I'm a little confused as to why we would have to eliminate 10 feet of it.
It is my understanding from what staff said, this is Chip Guthrie again, that that by running the driveway all the way up to the front facade of the house, it would not be typical of a property in a residential neighborhood. Something similar to what the chair is recommending by stopping short for a space for landscaping and then have a pathway for your concern on getting the cans, out on a nice straight plane. It tends to me to address the two issues, dropping back a little ways from the front facade of the house, because that is atypical to a residential setting, unless you have a driveway.
Well,
I mean, unless you have a garage.
the house next door, their pavers run from the front all the way to the garage, around the garage, into half of the backyard continuously.
He did say that if you have a garage, obviously it goes up to the garage. But in cases that there is no garage, the driveway would stop short of the house to allow for landscaping. Am I saying that right, Jordan?
That is correct, Mr. Guthrie.
I have plenty of landscaping. I have a side yard, still a fairly robust front yard, and I have landscaping on the side that would be on the side of the driveway. I have quite a bit of landscaping. If the concern is that it wouldn't allow for enough landscaping, it certainly leaves plenty of space for landscaping.
So our concerns weren't necessarily for the particular amount of landscaping in the front yard, but if you look at the image on here and, imagine that this is squared off and filled in with pavers, which is certainly an option. It's atypical for single family residences in a district to have a parking area or cars parked that are directly in front of a building or a driveway that runs up to a front setback line. It's something that our design guidelines kind of deem as something that's not really appropriate or historically compatible. So I believe what the going discussion is right now is to do the driveway in the 18 by 18 configuration, to have a paver walkway that extends from that pad to the gate here, and then which leaves kind of a visual buffer of a giant or a large parking pad and the front facade of the house.
I see. So how wide of a paver sidewalk to that gate would I be allowed to do? Large enough to accommodate the rolling of the garbage cans?
It would be the width of the gate, which appears to be about 3.5 feet.
I think with the impermeable surface total and everything, I think you could probably go up to 4 feet, or the width of the driveway, or I'm sorry, the width of the gate. Yeah.
Got you. Okay. All right. That doesn't seem so unfair.
Okay. All right. Is there more comments from?
Can I add one more thing, Bill? This is Erin. I just want to say that part of the reason for the condition to have the driveway offset from the property line is we just wanted to make the applicant aware that this is typically a condition she would run in during the building permitting process, because you can't have runoff that run from your property onto a new improvement and have that water run off onto an adjacent property. That's a typical building permit type condition. It's usually between 12 to 18 inches, that condition of approval. In addition, she is a little bit tight on her total permeable surface. So that's another reason for the recommendation in addition to the compatibility, but also for the total pervious surface for the entire lot as well.
So that's the explanation for condition of approval number 5, basically.
Got you.
So if we were to approve this, the conditions approval, how would that be revised to allow a walkway from the driveway to the gate that was no wider than the width of the gate?
I think in condition number 4, you could just add a sentence after that, that a 4-foot wide paver walkway may be added, connecting the parking area to the gate, to the pedestrian gate.
Okay.
You could actually eliminate the ribbon driveway design in lieu of a pad.
Yeah, you can eliminate
that and just replace it with that verbiage.
Sounds good.
One question is curb cut.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like the city already put a curb in front of it. Is that true?
Curb is existing. Are you speaking of the proposed driveway or the existing driveway?
No, the proposed driveway right
There-
there.
I guess when the sidewalks were done prior to my moving here, a year or two ago, the curb was placed there. So it would require a curb cut. And I
Yeah.
believe we've already looped in, is it Mr. Michael David and Alfonso? Is that his name?
Felipe Lafaso.
I'm sorry, Felipe Lafaso. So they're already on board. They understand that we were having this meeting today. So I feel like Abraham and Jordan have done a really great job of trying to harness all of the appropriate resources.
Excellent. And I want to compliment you on your landscaping that you do have. It's wonderful. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, can I hear a motion?
Where are we?
Judith? Would you like him to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll put this one up. Okay, I want to move to approve HRPB project 20-001-00078 with staff recommended conditions for a certificate of appropriateness for the removal of the existing driveway and the installation of a new driveway in the front yard of the property located at 246 Vanderbilt Drive, based upon the competent substantial evidence in the staff report and pursuant to the City of Lake Worth Beach land development regulations and historic preservation requirement, adding, okay, how do I do this? We have the 18 by 18 pad with a 4-foot wide paver walkway from pad to gate.
In condition 4.
In condition 4.
As an additional sentence on condition 4. All right,
Second.
that was the motion, understood.
Second.
Can I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Bernard Guthrie. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Motion appears to carry unanimously. Thank you very much. And good luck
Thank
with
you,
the
Ms. Hall.
project. All right, folks, let's move on to William Waters' section of tonight's agenda.
For the record, William Waters, Community Sustainability Director. I'd like to introduce Erin Fitz-Ucita, who is our new Assistant Director for Community Sustainability. She'll be joining us part-time until June 1st, where she'll become full-time. And she's going to be presenting the two cases D and E. I'll be doing case F.
All right,
Hi,
Take it
good
away.
evening, everybody.
good evening.
Hi, Abe, can you go ahead and enable my, or Keith, could you enable my participant sharing, or can you pull up my PowerPoint for me, please? And just give me a second. So first of all, I just want to say while we're waiting, it's great to see everybody again. And Bob, you handled those motions like a boss. I remember when you first started, you were a little like cautious, and then you just knocked it out of the park. So I was very impressed. So, all right, let me see if I can do. Oh, here we go. Let's see if I can share it. All right. So for the record, Erin Fitz-Ucita for the Department of Community Sustainability. The item before you is Planning and Zoning and HRPB case 20-002-0000, a lot of ones, a lot of zeros and then a 1. This is a proposed future land use map amendment. And what this means is we are changing, if you, in the state of Florida, basically you have two maps that govern land development. You have your future land use map and your zoning map. Your future land use map this is your map of your big dreams, right? This is your intensity, your density, the big picture of what can go there, where your zoning has more restrictions and more limitations, and those are found in your land development code. So for the current future land use map amendment we're amending a section east of the I-95 corridor on Lake Worth Road, about 7.11 acres, from mixed use east to TOD. And then a second area from mixed use west. That area is west of I-95 along Lake Worth Road between Boutwell and I-95. That's going from mixed use west to TOD. Okay, there we go. So again, why are we doing this? This is a city initiated amendment. We want to provide some prime locations for transit oriented development. And it makes a lot of sense to have the TOD future land use here because it is proximate to the Tri-Rail. There are bus stops, Route 61, there's the I-95 corridor, and it's generally proximate to the US Highway 1 corridor. And again, we're responding to market-driven conditions for economic development in the city. And this is just a generally desired designation for this general area. So as such, staff is recommending approval of the proposed amendment. The amendments are consistent with the city's housing goals. They're consistent with the TOD future land use designation. It's an appropriate location. It's supported by the comprehensive plan, the city's strategic plan, and of course are supported by the required data analysis that is required in the Florida statutes. And this is that we need to provide appropriate and relevant data based on the city's community vision and plan. And we also need to demonstrate compliance with the city's long range level of service requirements for traffic, parks, water, sewer, all of those things. So staff is recommending approval, and that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Erin. Questions from board members, please.
Chip Guthrie.
Chip, you have the floor.
Erin, I just had a question. I noticed that the proposed land use map has a gap between Boutwell Road and some of the areas back there, I guess, towards 2nd Avenue. Kind of like an L-shaped over on the Lake Worth Road. Why would those not be considered for transit-oriented development?
So those you're saying that you would like more considered?
Yeah, why wasn't it the whole square?
No, I'll
Yeah,
interject. Part of that
yeah,
area, Mr. Guthrie, is not within the city limits of Lake Worth Beach. It has never been annexed in. So we are not able to change the future land use of that area if it's not in the city. And those parcels, which there are about 9 of them between 2nd Avenue North, Boutwell Road, and Detroit and Lake Worth Road, are not in the city.
Are those county, Palm Springs?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
We have some annexation to do, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's an odd little area.
I didn't think we could have pockets and non-contiguous like the one parcel that abuts Boutwell Road and Lake Worth Road there.
That whole area is chopped up.
So you can't conduct new annexations because that would be prohibited by statute, but those statutes got there because people were annexing, people were not annexing in necessarily the most consistent manner. Also too, if you do volunteer, you may have an annexation area and you may do voluntary annexations within the annexation area. So you may not get everything all at once. So there's different ways to annex that the statute provides for. So one is the designated annexation area where you collect the voluntary ones and then you get the involuntary, then you proceed with involuntary annexations.
Okay, so not to go off on a rabbit trail, but in the future, if those parcels did become annexed into the city, they would more than likely be brought in as traffic-oriented development.
Yes. And that's our desire is to annex within the city's future annexation areas, especially when you have the areas like that where you're going to have it's going to be easier to provide public services.
Okay.
Okay.
Other
all I-
questions from board members?
I have a question. So basically, the difference is higher density and higher heights.
Yes, and,
Okay.
and that's intended because you want more units within a walking distance from transit, because that allows transit to function
Yeah.
appropriately.
Make a correction. It does allow higher density, but the height limit at TOD is 55 feet and 5 stories. The height limit for mixed use west is 65 feet and 6 stories. So the height is going to be coming down, but it's going to be going up.
And then you had like a traffic study, or you had some stats. Now, to say it's an I-95 corridor, it's a little, you know, because you don't actually have an exit there to I-95. So people will have to be traveling along Boutwell or Avenue A, basically to get to I-95, right?
Or Congress.
Or Congress, yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that.
Other questions? I have some questions.
Lake Osborne Drive as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can see, apparently the trailer park and some of those other blocks are already TOD.
Yes.
It appears so, yeah. I have a couple of questions. Basically, what does future land use mean? Could I, if I own that shopping center, could I come in tomorrow and propose a 6-story, 60 unit per acre project? Or does the land still need to be rezoned?
If you came in tomorrow, you could propose a development at base level density of 30 units an acre with a project of 65 feet and 6 stories. The future land use would allow you to rezone the area to TOD West, which would allow you, if the other change we're talking about coming up, to allow the base density to go to 60 units an acre and an overall height of 55 feet and 5 stories.
Okay. 60 units it sounds like an awful lot. William, you were there at the town council meeting, city council meeting, city commission meeting with the upzoning of the parcel on Gulfview. And I had some objections to that. I have similar, not so much objections as thoughts on this upzoning. I mean, we are upzoning.
We have not upzoned anything yet.
I know, William, I know. And we love you. But we are pushing for such greater density and greater land use. And I can understand why. It's because we want people to come in and build more. But we have so much land already that is either zoned or future land used for major construction that we're not using. And my thinking is that supposing the city were to zone future land use and zone one parcel for a 100-story building with no parking requirement, the owner is going to be ecstatic because he's got this great expensive parcel of land that he now owns. But what's going to happen is that somebody's going to come in and say, well, I'll give you X dollars to put up a 3-story building, which is 3 stories more than the vacant parcel has now. And presumably the city would like that. But the owner is going to say, well, no, I'm not going to sell it to you for a 3-story building. This is available for a 100-story building. And likewise, you know, the owner of, and I'm not saying that I'm not going to vote for this, but I think we are getting ahead of ourselves in general by upzoning and by future land using so far in advance of the need. Future means just that, future. You know, nobody has come in yet with a plan to do something major on this, we'll say on this shopping mall parcel. we are giving that owner the thought that he's got a much more valuable parcel than maybe we want him to think, because his ability to sell that is going to be based on what he thinks it's worth. That's my thought. That's all I have to say. Other comments, other questions from board members?
I have another question. Go ahead, Judith.
Isn't this exactly the same thing that they did when the CRA was condemning that property? So because it was the horse before the cart, back and forth type of thing. I mean, we're doing a future thing here so we can get a proposed person in there.
Yeah.
But if we don't have it done, then we can't get somebody. I mean, this is all going around in a circle.
Yeah, then the land remains vacant as the CRA parcels are remaining vacant. And the people who were living there are gone. So we have a dead spot. I mean,
the land is vacant now, right? So why not open up for more possibilities?
I couldn't hear that.
No, you're saying that the land is going to remain vacant. Well, it's vacant now, right? Is that what you're saying? The land is vacant.
Only two of the parcels in question are actually vacant. All the other ones have improvements on them or are an improved project coming.
So no one's buying it as it is.
No.
So why not open up a possibility for somebody to come in to develop it differently?
William, did you want to respond to that?
Well, somebody has already come in and bought and is developing the corner of Boutwell. There has been interest voiced by parties with both the mobile home park and the shopping center. Whether those projects will come forward or not, I'm not quite sure. But keep in mind that the future land use change we're doing would facilitate a shorter building than what is allowed by right now. What we do see is an interest in smaller residential units, but more of them in the same size building. So our future land use change proposed would facilitate that.
Okay. Well, then
I have
we look to you, William, to tell us when we have potential buyers. The next project that is coming is certainly in the area of the Bohemian, and we'd like to know whether the zoning changes, the land use changes have a specific rationale and are not just pie in the sky.
Well, there is, and the Bohemian is leading the movement toward higher density buildings west of Dixie Highway. We feel very confident that once that project comes forward and is approved and constructed, they'll be more interested in similar type buildings along Lake Worth Road, west of 95, which can't be done right now.
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Guthrie.
William, to put it into perspective on traffic-oriented development, I had heard about this quite some time ago. I was under the impression if you were in very close proximity to a train station or railway, that the actual building height went up to 100 feet or 10 stories. I know that the density was increased and they did relax parking requirements because they're thinking more people are going to be coming down utilizing Palm Tran, Tri-Rail, the Connect line and things like that, and they'd have bicycles instead. What kind of difference in a mixed use application for say a 2-bedroom apartment as far as parking goes would you have in a TOD as opposed to mixed use what it is now?
Well, we are proposing later down this little discussion some changes and alterations in the LDRs in regards to parking. We do facilitate, in part of the process to get these projects done are probably going to come in as planned developments. all the projects west of 95 have come in as such, and they create sort of their own parking standard. And so they being next to Tri-Rail would facilitate their having a lower parking demand than otherwise, say if they were located on the southern part of Federal Highway, where there is no access to transit, either rail or transit bus or high-speed bus. As for the statement about the height, our charter does limit all height in the city west of Dixie Highway to 100 feet overall, all inclusive of the building. So it is almost impossible to build a 10-story building in 100 feet. You can probably get a 9-story building in that 100 feet, but you do have to go through a significant number of development hoops as a planned development to get to that 9 stories.
In a traffic-oriented development, are there any, like next to the Tri-Rail station in West Palm Beach, those condominiums that are kind of built close to there? Is that an example of traffic-oriented development?
I would say not, in this, even though they're right next to the Tri-Rail station. Those buildings were built. I know that 2 of them, I think one of them came online in 2004 and the other one came online in 2006. And both of them are very suburban car centric as they face Clear Lake. Their backs are turned. There's no connection between they and the Tri-Rail station. The whole idea about TOD is to have connectivity between the station and the development happening around it. If you look at our Envision brochure, you would see how we proposed or saw a vision for the mobile home park if it were redone, and how it connects and incorporates the Tri-Rail station. Those 2 apartment complexes that you're referring in West Palm Beach have almost no connectivity to the Tri-Rail. You'd have to walk all the way around to Banyan and then down, I guess it's Tamarind, to the train station.
Okay, and then the newer condominiums that were built around Tamarind Avenue and I guess like Clematis or something like that, those are too far away from the station as well to the east.
We normally try to designate the higher density no more than 1/4 of a mile from the actual train station. So the new development that's associated with the city place is very close to hitting that 1/4 mile distance.
Okay.
Other questions from board members?
The scenario, and I apologize for hogging this, but the scenario for a future land use designation to change this, that does not change the zoning.
No.
So this just informs the state that we are looking at this as a possible zoning change down the road when the need arises. Is that correct?
And I doubt that those would be city initiated zoning changes. We probably leave those up to an applicant or a property owner or a developer going through an entitlement process to do the rezoning.
And then of course that goes in front of the zoning board. Can I ask why this is being brought in front of the historic board?
Because you are serving as this is a secondary land planning agency. Though that part of the area is not in a historic district, you are privy to making recommendations and changes to both the comprehensive plan and the future land use map, as well as the land development regulations.
And this will come in front of P&Z next week, I presume?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's a longer process for future land use review. So it'll go before in Lake Worth Beach, there are 2 local planning advisory boards or local planning agencies, UN Planning and Zoning. This will then go to Commission for Transmittal to the state, to the Department of Economic Opportunity for review and comment. While this is an expedited review, which means they'll have 30 days to review, they will gather comments from the Department of Transportation, from the South Florida Water Management District, and from the Regional Planning Council on this particular amendment. Then they'll collect the comments, return those comments to us, which then we will then go to adoption with a second hearing before the City Commission, and then before the change will become effective. So part of the purpose of doing this as a city initiated item is that process is more of a lengthier process than a rezoning concurrent with a plan development application. That's a shorter process When we do have somebody who's interested, who wants to move forward, that's going to shorten that time frame for them to come in and get through that entitlement process. This is a longer, more coordinated process that involves the state of Florida.
Thank you. Yeah, I have to admit that you folks are in a kind of a tough spot because we would like to know the thinking behind it, and on your part, you need to maintain the secrecy of any potential developer. So we can assume that perhaps there is a developer interested in this area. And that is the reason why you want to get the rezoning or the future land use going right now instead of waiting. Any other comments from board members?
Can I make a motion?
Can I hear a motion? Yes, please.
I move to recommend PZB project number 20. No, am I the wrong one again? Come on, have somebody help me here.
You have the right thing, but there's no number given yet.
Is that the right?
It's,
okay, so
You can just recommend approval to the city commission for item D on tonight's agenda. Would be sufficient.
well, I so move that we recommend item D to the city commission for expedited or to change the mixed use east and mixed use west to transit-oriented development in the FLU designation.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any additional discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Yeah. Judy, you're,
She said aye.
No, that's the other two.
We saw her shaking her head.
we saw you shake your head. Okay, it appears to be unanimous. Unanimous, the motion carries. Thank you. Okay, Erin, you want to go on to the next one?
Yes, sir. I'll be happy to do that. All right. So the next item is item E. I will spare you the very long application number. This is a proposed text amendment to the comprehensive plan, future land use element. It is amending 4 policies, and we'll walk you through the proposed text changes. They're broken down into kind of 5 individual items. These text amendments relate to mixed use east, transit oriented development, downtown mixed use, and the downtown mixed use future land use designations. And they will include modifications to development requirements, limitations, and the general location descriptions. And moving forward, let's see. So the first group of change, or the first change, is an amendment to the mixed use east to the table 1. And this is amending the zoning district mixed use federal highway from 20 to 30 for consistency between the different zoning districts to implement the mixed use east future land use designation.
On what highway is this again?
This is mixed use federal highway. So just going back, all of the zoning districts that implement the mixed use east future land use designation all have a consistent maximum, except for that particular zoning district. So
and what's the zoning district there?
It's mixed use federal highway.
What are the boundaries of that district?
That runs north and south along Federal Highway, which is, just the downtown district, and then south of the downtown district.
So how far though, to the city proper, to the city lines?
It's about a 1 lot. No, it's south of there. It doesn't go all the way to through College Park on the north, and then it basically it ends slightly below that. And we can pull up. We can take a look at that in the discussion. I can pull that up for you. We can pull up the land use map. I mean, the zoning district map. Sorry.
How far south does it go on Federal Highway?
It goes almost
The
to
city
the,
boundary.
it almost where Dixie kind of makes a jog east and kind of terminates at the southern boundary. There's some property along in that area. I guess it does touch right there very narrowly at the end, but a lot of that has the mixed use Dixie Highway designation.
And is it just the lots that run along Federal Highway?
Yes.
Yes.
And what is the density now per acre and what is the proposed?
The future land use density is 30 units per acre. The zoning district has a limitation, as a further limitation of 20 units per acre along there.
So we're actually increasing the density along Federal Highway?
We're increasing within the zoning district, your base density will now be higher.
Chip, you're right that it's increasing the density to 30 units per acre from 20 units. Which, you know, again, I'm not going to vote against this, but I worry that we are upzoning. I know William doesn't want me to use that word, but we are upzoning and future land using a lot of property that is not going to in fact be upzoned for a long time to come. If you think of the northern section of Federal Highway, it's largely single family, two family, lots of duplexes along there, and a couple of the old drug rehab buildings. But this is specifically going to increase the density. So where there's a two family, there could be a three family. And is it going to happen next year? Absolutely not. But we seem to be planning for 25 years in the future. And I wonder if we really want to be doing that.
The window of the comprehensive plan is a 25-year plan.
Yeah, that's actually, I was just going to say the same thing, William, that when you make your future land use designation, your planning horizon is typically 20 years out. So you plan for that 20-year period.
Let me.
We do have a lot of vacant lots on Federal Highway South.
Would love to see somebody build all the way along Federal
Okay.
Highway South.
Okay, but as it is right now, when you see Federal Highway South, there are 2-story and 3-story multifamily units in a 20 unit per acre density. If you are increasing that by a third, that's going to, and William just got finished saying that we don't have any mass transit on Federal Highway. We don't have any bus service or anything else. And on top of that, as it is now, I mean, I happen to live
right behind
a half a block off of Federal Highway. In my own particular area, this is not a real issue, but further down, we've got single family homes with 3-story apartment buildings that are being abused right now in this particular type of zoning, and we've just received an inkling of what kind of development can be going into these things. If we're going to be if we're going to be increasing the density, this is going to have a significant it's going to have a significant negative effect on the single family neighborhoods on both sides of Federal Highway, from going from 20 to 30 units per acre. Some of the developments, some of the proposed developments are for more of these drug rehabs and actually prison halfway houses, and they're trying to get a larger density to keep more of these people in here. And I'll tell you what, it's got everybody here really concerned. I would like
Guthrie,
to.
the Planning and Zoning and Preservation Division is unaware of any application for a drug rehab house or a prison on South Federal Highway.
Yeah, I have to ask, what 3-story buildings are being abused? I'm kind of I know you have those old hotels where you have a lot of rehabs and,
We have several two-story, what used to be apartment complexes that are run by charitable organizations, let's say.
mhm.
And they're there to help people who would otherwise be homeless. And it's especially around the 15th Avenue South area. It
And
is a problem that that the sheriffs are there all the time, that the drug sales and the prostitution is rampant. And we're not getting any help from the organization through means of supervision, somebody on site managers, things like that. And the significant negative effects to our neighborhood. I'm familiar with what is going on the east side, and there are similar situations going on the west side of Federal that are just, if you increase the density of these places, they also don't, these places, they don't require, the parking is very nil. You see 3 or 4 large vans in their parking lot. This appears to be along the lines of promoting this particular type of thing. The one that I had heard of, and that is proposed, I believe that they've actually purchased the property, happens to be I believe it's the Lord's Place. And we've got emails into the city commission, the mayor, the city manager, and Mr. Waters to try to clarify what their intention is, because this, especially if the density is increased, and this is the type of thing that you watch out for with what we are trying to approve, or what they're trying to have approved here this evening, is that we are approving the ability for one of these charity organizations, which I just want to throw out there, when they build this entire thing, there is no tax money coming in to the city from them. They are tax exempt. So therefore, even with the more use of emergency medical and sheriff's department resources that we have, they're not contributing toward that. And so I want to be very, very emphatic that this needs to be heard a little bit more thoroughly before we decide to go ahead and increase the density from 20 units per acre to 30 units per acre, especially on the south end of Federal Highway, from say Lake Avenue all the way to the city border with Lantana. I would definitely be vehemently against it.
Bob Dorenzo, yes.
Yeah, Chip, I'm Mr. Guthrie. I understand exactly what you're saying, and I hear you, believe me, because I'm out there every day. I look at it more as attracting developers and more towards what other municipalities have done to the south and north of us by increasing the density. More of the younger generations looking for basically condos, townhomes, permanent residence rather than rental. Giving a developer an opportunity to build something a little more affordable for people, to purchase and live here. I understand what you're saying, and I've dealt with the Lord's Place in the past in similar situations, and hopefully we don't go in that direction as a municipality. We have to approve buildings and PUDs and all of that along Federal Highway. I just think giving more opportunities in our little town to these other developers and builders and people that want a higher density, it opens it up to me. I think it's a good thing.
Well, if I can speak to add on to that, I'm agreeing with both of you. We talk about these developers coming in and wanting to build more density. Unless Aaron and William are holding out on us, there are no developers that I've heard of who want to put anything, perhaps except for a halfway house, on these large empty parcels. So, you could put a nice project on a
7 of those
parcel.
parcels will be developing very shortly.
Excuse me?
The owner of 7 of the parcels on South Federal Highway will be submitting an application for a project in at least, well, probably in the next 4 weeks. And it's not for a halfway house or a drug rehab house or any of that sort.
What is it for?
Taking their first step is an investment in Lake Worth Beach. And they want to trial this project out and then further it down Federal Highway on the other parcels that they own.
That would
Is
be
this
phenomenal.
residential, and is this affordable or market?
It's residential market rate.
Excellent.
And that's what we're looking to attract, and that's a wonderful thing.
I agree that attracting development is a wonderful thing, but if the only way that we can do it, if you live in my neighborhood, you could tell that the density along Federal Highway with 2-story, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, L-shaped. I mean, it's the kind of the standard you see all over town. We used to have hotels and motels along there as well that they've kind of gone by the wayside. But what scares me is that we've had developers that came in and purchased entire apartment buildings, and we have a situation where they are very dense. It is people that do not have vehicles. These are not people that are buying. These are not young people buying properties to live in. These are properties that are basically being given to people because they, it's an attempt to keep them off of the street or keep them out of jail. I want to caution you. We have plenty of density on Federal Highway right now. Plenty of density. If you take a look and go down Federal Highway and see all of the cars that are parked in some of these apartment buildings that are singly owned, and then you go down and you take a look at the places that are owned by the charitable organizations where they only have a few vans in there, and everybody else is either on bicycle or they're riding up and down the street on scooters and motorized things. I believe, I don't know what it is that is the developer that William is talking about. Do they have any connection to the Lord's Place?
No.
And would this developer not do his project if he couldn't get an extra 10 units per acre?
Well, their first foray is going to be in the downtown zone on Federal Highway, on the very edge of it. Their other properties are in Federal Highway, and I've seen some of their performers, and they will need additional density to make their numbers work.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to.
And many of the projects that are already on Federal Highway have a density far higher than 30 units an acre, and that's part of the problem. And they don't meet parking requirements, which would, if the zoning code, remember, only really affects new properties. There are a lot of non-conforming properties on Federal Highway that unfortunately have a higher density than that we allow, don't meet current parking requirements, and who people choose to lease to or house in their buildings has nothing to do with the land development code or the comprehensive plan. We don't have a way to legislate that only good people can live in Lake Worth Beach, unfortunately.
And we're finding out now what the consequences of that are in my particular neighborhood and neighborhood association. What the density of the places we have, the Cloisters townhomes, and we have Pineapple Village south and north. They're also on south. Those are all townhome communities, and they are kind of upper scale, nicer developments on that. Those people in those particular condominiums are scared to death of this type of development coming in. The townhomes that are represented by the Cloisters and the Pineapple Villages, that's consistent with 20 units per acre. Is that correct?
They're right at it, maybe a little bit higher than 20.
And those seem to be okay. If we could encourage more development like that up and down Federal Highway, that would be consistent with the type of neighborhood that we've got. That there's nobody complaining about those units. It is when you start getting into the higher dense units, where, especially because Lake Worth is affordable. Lake Worth is, the entire town is affordable housing. And here we are encouraging more. as opposed to encouraging townhome developments like, like the Cloisters or that would be something that that we would encourage, that I would like to see encouraged, and keep it at 20 units per acre, the density.
There are 3 townhouse projects already approved on South Federal Highway, none of which can make their economics work. One of them being finishing out the Cloister.
Because of the density.
Because of the cost of construction and the size of the units that were approved, and our for sale product is way beyond what our market will bear.
Well, that's part of our problem, isn't it? Is that Lake Worth is looked at as the dump. And so therefore, the only way they can make it work is that they can increase the density and put a bunch more people on the same lot.
And William, I hope that you're not having the wool pulled over your eyes by these developers, because every developer will have to will be telling you that he cannot make his numbers work. He can't make a pencil out unless he gets this or this or this from you.
Well,
and
keep in mind that the Cloister was originally marketed as $600,000 townhomes.
Yes, they were.
And the 2 projects that were approved besides that have complained to me that they cannot sell or even get a nibble on someone buying a townhome for $450 on
Correct.
South Federal Highway. So
Correct.
I don't know, they can sit there, I guess, and be vacant unless you come up with a different alternative for them to be developed. But right now, I'm not able to convince somebody, and neither are the developers, to come and spend $400,000 or $500,000 on a townhome on South Federal Highway.
Why are we giving a commitment before anybody's even asked for it? And if they want it, why don't they just ask for it?
The density change we're talking about has been asked of us to facilitate by a development entity that I mentioned.
Why can't we go project by project then?
Yeah.
Well, you can't change density project by project. It would be considered spot zoning. Now, we could come up with a different, we could split the the Federal Highway mixed use district into 2. We could make it 2 different zoning districts, possibly. A higher density one and a lower density one, but that's creating a whole new zoning district, which isn't impossible. It's just rather complicated, but we could do that.
Is there, I would respectfully ask that we confer and bring this up to the people that would be affected by this. Like I said, I've been having very recent conversations about about this exact type of thing, and by allowing this, we could be causing problems. This zoning, when you change the density, that is, you're never going to go down. It's never going to go from 30 back to 20 again.
Correct.
It is only
changed the zoning. The zoning's still going to be at 20 units an acre.
I know, but the future land use is the beginning that allows them to go to a zoning that would allow for that. And I think that when you look at future land use, I, as a resident, there's no buffer. There's no buffer here. I mean, I can understand this, and I'm fully for this in a traffic-oriented development area. But Federal Highway, you said yourself, William, is not a traffic-oriented development area. We don't have any mass transit here, no high-speed buses or anything else here. And this is residential communities close to the intercoastal, single-family homes, mainly, even west of mainly single-family homes, a few duplexes in there. So you're talking about going 30 units per acre and then right into single-family residential. And that there's no buffer there. It seems like the bad place to make this happen. And I know from firsthand, every single day we hear it in my neighborhood about the problems, and we could bring in, Captain Bear, and he can explain what's going on down in the South End where, 15th, 16th, 17th Avenue South. And there's a real problem there. And it's because we have what amounted to what used to be affordable housing, and is now being used as almost HUD type housing and we're getting a very, very bad element of people in because there's no way to enforce the rules that we have now with the zoning that we have now. We're in dire straits down here. I'll tell you that. And this seems to be a move in the wrong direction for me. And I can tell you for absolute positive that my association, I'm not even on the board. I've just been listening to what they've been talking about. And I can tell you right now, I mean, I would love to see this presentation come in front of our general membership meeting or even our board meeting, and you'd get a real sense of what increasing the density from 20 units per acre to 30 units per acre right next to our single family homes would do. And it's not a good thing. And I encourage everybody to, if you don't want to vote against it, table this thing until you get an idea of what's going on. And I'll have, I didn't even realize tonight, I was looking at the traffic oriented development on Lake Worth Road, which I'm absolutely for, or right around the train stations. The federal highway is the wrong place to do it. And keep in mind that the proximity to single family home residences. I mean, I'm one alley. I can tell you what's around my house, and it's fairly consistent.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How do you see the city solving this problem on South Federal?
Thank you.
Somebody is going to have to take a shot. They did already with townhomes, and those townhomes are consistent with, and they look pretty dense. I mean, if you take a look at it, those townhomes are wall to wall for the entire property, and they house, that's 20 units per acre.
And you don't have any complaints about those?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, there
how
are a few of
long-
them that are rentals.
Yeah, but how long have these lots been vacant on South Federal? And that element, I mean, I bought on Palm Way in 2005, and that element was bad back then. And here we are, how many years later, and it hasn't changed. I mean, I don't know what the solution is, but I think we have to, I keep harping on this, we have to kind of be open to new ideas. They're saying they can't take these motels and turn them into higher density properties. It's only for new projects. I think you have to kind of open yourself up to an idea to get somebody in that's interested in developing and changing it. We need to change the element of South Federal, and nobody's going to build a single family home on South Federal.
We're not looking for single family homes.
Mr. Dorinzo, would you like to comment?
We're very happy with the density that they've got now. The 20 units per acre I think is fine for South Federal. That includes that includes townhomes, and they'll maximum. And William even said that might even be the 20 acre, and that is fine. I cannot envision having more of the units like built that are like further south and even more dense than that. It would be a
if I may, we have a few more items to get through tonight as part of this amendment. So let's go through all of them. We can roll back to discussion. And if you all want, you can provide a split recommendation. This item is a recommendation item though, so you will have to make a motion to support, not support, or support portions of it, which will then move on to the City Commission. So let's work through that.
Are we not permitted to defer the motion to the next meeting?
No, you're an advisory body in this, and so this would be as the LPA, you're required to provide a recommendation. So if you vote against it, then that would be a recommendation of denial. So that's just kind of how it goes, unfortunately.
Why don't you go ahead and show us the other issues as part of this?
Absolutely. And I just want to also give you some perspective on density in Lake Worth Beach. The density in our single family areas is approximately 7 dwelling units an acre. So you guys are talking about the difference between density and multifamily and the different ones. So that just to give you some perspective, our single family is around 7 units an acre. So moving forward, so again, this was item 1. Then our next item, it goes back to our transit-oriented development. This would change the maximum density from 50 units to 60 units per acre. And it would allow for some additional implementing zoning districts. So I also want to bring up the fact that with future land use, you do have a maximum density, but you also have to then site plan a property. So you have to bring that into, you have to be able to park it, you have to drain it, you have to provide dumpsters and access, and you have to also, if your project is on a major thoroughfare, which these are, you also have to be compliant with the city's major thoroughfare design guidelines for design, which deal with fenestration and landscaping and a whole host of other things. So with this particular change, that is that particular change, and we'll just keep moving on here. And we get through all of them so you can see the full scope. Okay, so this is change 2 and 3. They are related. Change 2 relates to the text regarding the transit-oriented development policy, and change 3 is the table that links to that policy, and it discusses the density allowed in the implementing zoning districts. I want to add that the future land use map amendment that you saw previously was reviewed at the higher density of 60 units an acre to ensure that the level of service would be, the long range level of service would be maintained at the highest proposed density. Okay, see here, there we go. And then again, this particular change, this has to do with the map amendment. That's the kind of, it's not a really, it's a separate item, but it's kind of a companion item in the sense that this is the description that describe, that would add, it basically adds additional location descriptions to address the new proposed map change. And then finally, there is just an basically kind of extra language here, retail and commercial uses, including higher intensity commercial uses for the downtown mixed use district. Commercial uses are permitted. The intensity and type of the commercial use is regulated in the land development code. There's no need to specifically mention it in, but in the actual future land use policy. So that is the summary of all the amendments or all the components of this text amendment. If I would recommend that you go back and you discuss maybe each item, and if you don't feel like you have consensus on the entire text amendment as a whole, maybe if there's an item that you feel more concerned with that you would like to have a different recommendation for, that's fine as well, or to give a positive or negative recommendation on the package.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of questions for Aaron, I suppose.
Aaron and William.
Part of the TOD is TOD East, or the MUE, is up around 9th and 10th and F streets, H streets. What is the late word on any transit, any local transit going on that eastern track? I don't know whether that's FEC or the other.
That's the FEC. William, do you have any? I know we are not approved for a Brightline station on the FEC. Did you want to talk about that?
I don't believe it will be a Brightline station in any event.
It'll be the
Brightline's fast speed intercity service, and then they're talking about putting stations in Aventura and Boca Raton, as well as Martin County, kind of threw a little bit of wrench in the works on the regional approach to intra-city service on the FEC tracks, where there would be either a publicly subsidized or a secondary transit system on the FEC track called the East Coast Link. There was sufficient funding both at the federal and state level to get the stations constructed. There was discussion for several years on what FEC would want as a lease payment for the use of their right-of-way. Some of the right of way is a little bit pinched. One of the areas where it's pinched that sort of prevents 3 types of service: freight, higher speed transit, and then the intracity transit is in Lake Worth Beach, unfortunately. But it really came down to who pays for or subsidizes the operation of the East Coast Link. Both Miami-Dade County has put in a assessment zone. Broward County is looking at it regionally. Unfortunately, Palm Beach County does not have a regional transit authority or a regional taxing entity to help pay for the operations. How it was being looked at is that each city that wanted a station would have to pay for its operations. We did a study back in 2012 and 13 that ascertained that every single dollar that was be able to be generated under tax revenue from maxing out the potential of our TODs would be necessary to run each of the stations. And we could not afford to transfer all of our new ad valorem tax base from new development just to subsidize the operations of the train stations, one or more of them. And then the whole system doesn't work if you have nowhere to go. And so there's not likely to be an intracity service if there's not at least train stations in each one of the municipalities where somebody would want to go. So we have been advocating, and our city manager has been advocating it very strongly, as well as the mayor, a regional look at how we provide mass transit on the FEC tracks. It cannot be done on an individualized basis, municipality by municipality. It has to be looked at either by the TPA or the creation of a regional transit authority, the expansion of PalmTran, or expansion of a South Florida Regional Transit Authority. I know it's a long-winded answer, but there is no definitive date as to when we're going to get those stations.
Or if, yeah. We are arbitrarily pushing to go to 6 stories up there around 10th and F Streets area, when the chances of having a local transit station seem pretty far-fetched at this point. Do we really want to increase our density up there?
We have 2 projects of which require this density change to move forward, one of which is the Bohemian.
If it doesn't move forward, does that kill the Bohemian, or does it reduce their number of units?
It would chop a floor off their building. I don't know what it would do to their development numbers.
But there goes their
package to make it work would have to be revised. The letter of intent already approved by the city commission would have to be revised. The economic development incentive agreement would have to be revised. The parking structure being proposed would have to be redesigned likely or reduced.
Is that parking structure to be paid for by the city?
We are paying for part of it. But if the number of units is reduced on their property, then related doesn't need as many parking spaces for its development. So I wouldn't think they would build an extra floor just for the heck of it.
Mr. Dorinzo, you want to have some comment?
I'll wait till you guys are pretty much done.
Chip?
I just don't want to see the city bite the nose to spite their face. Most of us back up to Federal Highway or live near Federal Highway or block off Federal Highway, and it's all a Federal Highway. It's from College Park all the way down through the South End. We need things to happen in this city for this city to grow. A new Dunkin' Donuts doesn't cut it compared to all the other municipalities in our county. We need to grow. So I say, throw out every opportunity out there. It's not like the developers are beating at City Hall's building department and running in. There's not a line out the front door like there are at other municipalities for projects to go forward. So I just see if we could offer as much as we can as a small municipality, it still has to come in front of all our boards to get approval and in front of staff. And I don't think at this point in time that we would approve something ridiculous for Federal Highway or F Street or whatnot. And I don't think a floor is really going to be an issue with anyone. I mean, I remember when we had the Lucerne built in the center of town. I wish we had 5 more of them. We should as a municipality. I could keep going, but I'll stop right now.
Mhm.
I think that you made some valid points, and in certain areas, the density, and the Bohemian is an example of it. When we were going to have a train station there, that made absolute sense to increase the density there in the same manner it does around Tri-Rail Station. We already do have the Tri-Rail
Right.
Station there.
Yeah.
That is, that's understandable. But where we're trying to increase density to the limits that we are going from 20 to 30 in an
Right.
area such as Federal is, yes, we all do live, but take a look on the north end of Federal, where you might have a 6-unit apartment complex or a duplex or office
I have
space.
townhomes behind me.
Yep, and they're
Yeah.
fine. And
And
I've
they're
got no
fine
problem
and they're
with that.
good neighbors. Granted, they never use their garage to park in and they're parked all over the road, but
That's a design
it's-
issue too that we wish we had addressed.
but I just think as a whole, federal highways ugly. If it's the dumpsters, garbage can issues on the entire length of federal highway. I've been bitching for, excuse my language, I've been requesting for 20 years to have some type of conducive landscape code for our federal highway. There's a big difference when you cross the border into West Palm, or you just keep going down through Boynton and Delray on that same road.
Yep.
It all comes down to code. No matter what you complain about, who's living where, who's not what, dumpsters or whatnot for the entire length of federal highway, it's still, all of our problems tend to go back to code enforcement.
And a lot of it has to do, code enforcement is limited and the sheriff's department is limited and all of the things that we have, that's all they keep telling us when we have issues related to the number of people that are on top of each other, and this is not going to be conducive. This is not a urban arts lofts type of thing where we're talking about increasing the density significantly right next to a 7-unit per acre,
Right.
zoning. Which is single family, 7 unit. And so I don't have any problem with just about any of that, except for when it comes to South Federal Highway. And that's the full length of Federal Highway from, it probably changes when you get around 3rd Avenue. When you get close to the downtown, yes, you could do some density real close
Well, right.
to
Yeah,
Federal
because
Highway.
what do you do with the one behind, right south of Wells Fargo and the one behind the gas station right there? It should be different than what you're dealing with south of the cloisters.
That is correct. And I agree with you there. So in other words, if they've got, and William, what kind of density is on that property that's at 1st Avenue and Federal?
Well, you mean behind Federal High, Wells
Behind
Fargo?
Wells Fargo, yeah.
That has a base density of, it's in the downtown zone. It has a base density of 40 units an acre.
Right,
See,
and that can support that. That can support that
Right.
because it's going, on the way to the beach and everything else. We're dealing with, and then there's some step down from there. If you take a look from there, you've got some churches around, you've got some other multi-family dwellings and things like that before you ease into this single family neighborhood. A lot of what we deal with on a regular basis is how a development looks compared to the buildings, to the housing or structures next to it. When you start getting 30 units per acre in here, yes, you're going to be dealing with, are they going to be able to go 3 stories, William?
They can go 3 stories now.
And are they going to be able to increase that to 4?
If they do a planned development, yes. You can do that now.
You can do it now.
Still has to be approved.
Pardon?
It still has to be approved. In other words,
Yes.
if somebody came, because they'd have to come in front of our board, I would imagine, for a 4-story unit.
Yes, they would have to go before the city commission, actually.
Yes.
I would.
Chip,
I
agree with
implore
that.
this board. I would implore this board to, let's approve the areas where there is no question that the higher density is required, but I would like to hold off and possibly delay this one in Federal Highway until you get a little bit of input on what issues that we have going on here right now, and that we can't, there's no answer to them. We have the sheriff's department here regularly. And we ask what can be done.
We're just making a recommendation to the commission, right?
Judith, I cannot hear you.
Can't hear you, Judith.
We're just making a recommendation to the commission, correct? We are not voting on whether or not this moves forward. We're just saying whether or not we support it.
Right.
And as Aaron mentioned, you could make a recommendation to move forward with recommending approval for everything except for the change in the density from Federal Highway if you wanted to.
That's what I would suggest if everybody is willing to go that route.
It sounds like a good idea to me. And Chip, I agree with a lot of what you say. And I'm thinking about the Bohemian. They came in without, as far as I know, unless William isn't telling us everything, they came in proposing this whole thing based on the zoning that was there at the time. And now, you know, developers always do this. They want to get a little more out of you. They'll tell you that their numbers don't work so they can get an extra floor so they can make a little more profit. But I worry that Aaron and William, don't let yourself be played by these developers. It just doesn't work. Or it worked great for them, but we end up with trash. So I suppose we're heading toward approving everything with the exception of, is that item 1, Aaron?
Yes, that was item 1. That was the change to allow the maximum future land use density of 30 units an acre in the zoning district mixed use Federal Highway.
Well, mixed use Federal Highway also goes well above 13th Avenue North, correct?
Yes.
I think it goes to 17th Avenue North.
Goes to 17th. And
right.
And I mean, granted,
it goes, yeah, it stops short just of College Park.
Correct.
And they don't have the issue of the vacant lots that we do down here, which I believe is trying to be addressed by this.
Right. And may I just add, when I was on the code compliance board for the city, we had in our, I don't know if it was in the rules and regulations or the charter or whatever, there is a nuisance abatement board that can be formed. And going back 10, 15 years, if a property is constantly an issue, like you're bringing up, if it's a specific property and the police have been called a numerous amount of times, code has been called, we as a board, as a municipality, can close that building.
It has been done in our neighborhood before. We've closed a place, unfortunately named the White Horse Hotel.
I remember. Yes.
Because White Horse refers to heroin, I guess. And
right.
And that was closed for a year. We've also, the sheriff's department right now, I believe, is working on some nuisance abatement on some of the properties around I don't know exactly which one's 15th Avenue, 16th Avenue, but what we're having problems with is that because it is being run by Goodwill, the people are considered to be ADA. And some of the problems is that you cannot go in there and stop anything that's going on. We're being stopped at every turn. If we could promote more developments such as the cloisters and if they don't work financially right now, guess what? There's 1,000 people a day moving into Florida, and we've got undevelopable infill with amenities a mile from the beach, a walking distance to the beach, that people will be eventually coming in and they will be able to work within our rules and our standards.
Right. And if we do this or we don't, they still have the ability to come to staff, to our board, to B&C and request a variance. It could be a very unique property. It could be something interesting like that little micro hotel and things like that.
Bob, sorry, you can't get a variance on density.
Okay, then I apologize. I see this is all done in increments of 10. Could there be a compromise to put 25 per acre rather than 20 or 30? I mean, is there a way to divide that? Do they do that? I'm just trying to help William.
That could be a recommendation, sure.
Okay.
I'm gonna turn this item over to William. I have to source a cord. My laptop is gonna die on me.
Yeah, I just did mine.
And in reference to nuisance abatement, the city does have, and since I've been here, we put in place several mechanisms to deal with chronic properties, as Mr. Guthrie was describing, but they're all driven by investigations by Palm Beach Sheriff's Office. Nuisance abatement now is handled by our special magistrate that deals with drug-related activity, gang activity, or prostitution.
Okay.
And that can be, a property can be declared a nuisance to abatement, and there are some investigations of PBSO. We also have chronic nuisance, which is driven by calls of service by PBSO for other matters. And that's 3 calls within 30 days or 6 calls, I believe, in 3 months. That mechanism has been on the books almost 8 years now, and I think we've only had 2 properties declared a chronic nuisance by PBSO. Ms. Ryan and I worked together, and mostly from her, we expanded our definition of chronic nuisance so that properties that have multiple or extenuating circumstances with their co-compliance issues, they can be declared a chronic nuisance by the magistrate, which gives the city special authority to go in and do some things on those properties. To date, I don't believe we've had any properties declared an official chronic nuisance as of yet. Some things have been held up because of our compassionate co-compliance policy for COVID. We were aggressively going down a road beginning the first of the year. And unfortunately, we are now under this reprieve when it comes to co-compliance that was put in place the middle of March. And I do not know when that compassionate co-compliance policy is going to be lifted. It only sort of exception for it is life safety issues that can be addressed, but need to be brought by PBSO or by maybe the building official. So once we get back to normal co-compliance activities, which hopefully will be sometime this summer, we can ramp up on dealing with some of the issues that Mr. Guthrie mentioned on South Federal Highway.
Okay.
That'll be helpful.
Get someone to make a motion approving everything, approving a recommendation to City Commission to regarding the proposed amendments with the exception of item 1. Someone want to make that recommendation?
I'll make the recommendation. I move to recommend the proposed amendments to the future land use map of the City of Lake Worth Beach Comprehensive Plan from the future land use designations of mixed use east and mixed use west. Am I wrong again here? Jeez, crackers.
I think we're on the item.
I would do is make a recommendation to approve the staff's item E, less the recommendation to change mixed use federal highway in the mixed use east future land use district from 20 to 30 units an acre.
What William said, I move.
Can we get a second on that? Someone want to second that motion? Do I get a second? Someone want to make a substitute motion? Anyone? Judith? Are we awake?
Yes, I'm trying to figure out how to formulate this. So I move that we accept the recommendations as presented.
All of them.
All of them.
That's a substitute motion. Is there a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, it is moved and seconded. Can we say all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
How many ayes is that?
2.
I think there's 2.
And those opposed, nay. Nay.
Nay.
Chip, nay. Okay, I'm voting nay. Chip is voting nay. Judith.
So let me do a roll call.
Okay, Sherry, thank you.
So Judith Fox,
She's muted.
Nay.
There you go.
Chip Guthrie,
Nay.
Bob Dorenzo,
Yay.
and Judith Just,
Yay.
and Bill Feldkamp.
Nay.
So nays have it, 3-2.
Judy, can I get you to second? Mine, you were, I don't know if you were trying to second and you were muted.
I can go with everything but one. Yes, I can second you.
Can I read, am I able to reinstitute my previous motion?
You may. Your motion is to accept, to recommend approval of everything except item 1.
Except for item 1, dealing with South Federal Highway.
And I'd second
Can we
that.
get and can we get a second on that?
I second it. Judy Fox.
Judy Fox seconds. All in favor of that motion, say yay.
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 All those opposed to that motion?
Nay.
Nay.
All right, let's get another roll call. Sherry Cole, please.
Getting there. Okay, so sorry, I had on you.
Just reverse it.
Judith Just,
Nay.
Chip Guthrie,
Yay.
Bob Dorenzo,
Oh, we did nay.
Yeah, it was.
everybody's confused about what it is. Okay, Bill Feldkamp,
Yay.
and Judy Fox.
Yay.
So we have 1, 2, and this time the yays have it.
Okay.
All right.
So the recommendation is to suggest City Council approve it with the exception of item 1. Thank you. Let's move on. Aaron, are you doing the next one or is this William?
I am, but I'm having a little bit of trouble getting the PowerPoint presentation to share. I might need some help from Abraham or somebody.
I see it.
You see it?
Yeah, I see it. Lakewood Beach. You got it.
I just can't see how to move it forward. That's the problem.
Oh.
I don't, oh, there we go. I already had that, but I need to go advance it. How do I advance it? Just, okay, all right. So, William Waters, Community Sustainability Director. The item before you is a consideration of an ordinance to make several different amendments, edits, and changes to our land development regulations. I'll go through them fairly quickly. There are 6 areas. We are proposing some changes to our general provisions, including definitions, our administrative division, permits, site design, qualitative standards, some house cleaning items with mixed use districts, planned development district, and mixed use west. We are dealing with a significant number of changes in Article 4, dealing with off-street parking and the development standards associated with such. Making some changes to development standards regarding medium and high intensity conditional uses by changing that section to deal with both administrative uses and conditional uses. And then a housekeeping item when it comes to nonconformities that is causing some consternation and issues for insurance companies and others when it comes to nonconforming buildings, to narrow what aspects are covered. So we'll jump through. On the Article 1, when it comes to definitions, we are going to be clarifying the definition of building height to have it work in tandem with the floodplain elevations that are going to be changing, and also a requirement that buildings that are not in the floodplain have their height start at 12 inches above the crown of road. We've had some buildings that have been built that have not had their first floors 12 inches above the crown of road, and they've been experiencing some minor flooding issues. So that will handle that. There's a change in a parapet definition that eliminates the incentive that a parapet roof can actually be, a parapet with a flat roof can actually be taller than a building with a hipped, gable, or otherwise angled roof. So we're going to take away that incentive because I think in Lake Worth Beach, we're more, just because of our vernacular nature, having roofs that are flat shouldn't be encouraged over those that have a more interesting profile. We're going to be removing or changing the definition of standalone retail to and address some issues that have come up as of late on how that is interpreted and dealt with, including the removal of the definition for a convenience store associated with a gasoline station. We are moving what would be considered historically as a convenience store into the standalone retail or single destination commercial use, and then providing some performance criteria in our ordinance to deal with that, because it's gotten to the point where it's almost impossible to define in today's terms what is a convenience store, because everything from a dollar store to a Walgreens really is a convenience store. And we're also expanding the definition of a vehicle gasoline service station and changing it to vehicle fueling and charging stations. Because of the evolution of how we energize our vehicles, we want to be ahead of the curve and be able to handle a service station that might have different means of providing energy to a vehicle. Under Article 2, the Administration Division, we're deleting all the standards for a gasoline station. They are actually repeated in the definition that is now going to be the vehicle fueling charging service station. So we don't need them in Article 2. On Article 3, mixed use district, for clarifying some impermeable surface numbers that were inconsistent between the actual verbiage and the table, as well as clarifying a couple of things with a planned development district. What we're allowing is urban plan developments west of 95, where it's not specifically clear as to that can happen. So we're allowing those specifically and clarify that inconsistency in language. Article 4 is pretty much a redo of our off-street parking. We're getting rid of our off-street parking table and moving toward use classifications that have specific parking requirements for those. As you may recall, in our permitted use table, we have various use classifications such as office, retail, residential, professional service, institutional, industrial, and specialty. So we're now reducing the number of categories for parking and making parking be able to be addressed in more creative means. I do want to give a shout out to Andrew Meyer of our department. I challenged him with putting together performance criteria for electric charging facilities in parking lots. He did a wonderful job putting something together. So we're adding that to our parking standards so that parking lots that have 25 spaces or more have to provide a level of electric charging within that infrastructure. That comes up a lot from a number of people. And one of the first people that ask about it is on your board. And when we have new projects coming in, they will have to provide that charging infrastructure. We are opening up a little bit the allowance for counting on-street parking to count toward your off-street parking. That came up in the discussion with the City Commission. All residential will still have to have off-street parking. Let's say, for example, single family does have to have 2 off-street parking spaces, but we will allow 1 on-street parking space to count toward those 2. There are some other clarifications on inconsistencies within the parking standards, and I think it's going to work a lot easier to ascertain what the parking requirement is. I also want to give a shout out to Aaron, who put together a caveat in the language that facilitates higher traffic intensity uses that may be in the same category as others do have to provide additional parking because of their intensity and traffic generation potential. On development standards, we are now looking at conditional uses and administrative uses having the same performance criteria. It was not clear how it's written, and the term up there is medium and high intensity conditional uses. When this was written back in 2013, it was intended that medium intensity uses for the most part were administrative and high intensity were conditional. We're clarifying this language to ensure that both administrative uses, which are approved by staff, and conditional uses that are approved by a board or possibly the City Commission have similar performance standards. We have changed and improved the performance standards for the vehicle fueling charging stations to address that change, and also provided standards for single destination retail uses which would also include standalone retail and single destination commercial uses to address many of the issues that have been brought up that actually occur when it comes to a convenience store. So those standards would now have to be met for those new developments coming forward, or the redo of an existing building into a standalone retail use or single destination. The last change to supplemental regulations, we're removing, there's a discrepancy in the nonconformities. Nancy Stroud, our land development regulation attorney, helped put a caveat that if a building were destroyed by natural means, acts of God, of that sort, it could be built back, taking into account trying to bring as much of it back into conformity as possible. In another section of the code, it says that nobody can build a building back regardless of how it's lost. And that inconsistency has caused a lot of issues for insurance companies. So we're clarifying that so that if you are the person who causes the loss of the building, you can't build it back. But if it's done by a hurricane or an act of God, then you would be able to build it back. But you would have to bring it into close as possible conformity as possible. But taking into account, let's say that, you know, that the nonconformity was too many units. Or more units than will be allowed. You would be able to build the building back. You would be able to have those grandfathered in units, but it might require you to sort of beef up the landscape plan, possibly provide more parking if you can, and some other things. Those will be on a case by case basis. And from my recollection, we've only had one property that was lost by fire that had a challenge being brought back. Fortunately, it was in a historic district and waivers were provided so that it could be built back and reconstructed. So that's the end of the changes that are being proposed by the LDRs. I know it's a very long document. They're just the most substantive change is how we will calculate and implement the parking standard, as well as the performance criteria for both administrative and conditional uses. So I hope that you will recommend approval of this to the City Commission. As a little heads up, you'll be getting another series of LDR changes next month, as well as an update to our permitted use table. We're just not taking it all at once. We're going to take it in pieces.
Thank you very much, Mr. Waters. Comments from board members?
Yeah, how do you start an act of God?
There you go.
I have to say that your item number 4, I absolutely applaud. You're finally bringing current thinking on parking and too much parking, Uber and all those sorts of things into our city zoning and planning codes. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. I was referencing you when you moved in and you wanted to know where your parking station or infrastructure station for charging your car was. I'm like, we don't have a requirement for that. We got to do that.
Yep.
I'm sorry it took this long to bring it forward.
Good, good. Other comments from board members?
That is an awful lot. William, could you just quickly go over when you decoupled convenience store from a convenience store gas station, is there going to be any is there going to be any change into what is allowed? They're not allowed to put them together again?
Great interest at one point of having a Wawa somewhere in the city. With what we have in place now, a Wawa could not get built. Because there was a limitation on the convenience portion of a gas station only being able to be 250 square feet. What we've done instead is define those associated uses as a standalone commercial destination and put in performance criteria that would apply to all of them. So if Wawa wanted to come in, or we have a proposal right now to build a 7-Eleven with a restaurant within it and some other things west of 95 on 10th Avenue North, there are specific criteria they would have to meet that would help ensure that that convenience element would not denigrate into the complaints and nuisance-based activities that we have at your traditional convenience stores that we often have around Lake Worth Beach, which were not even classified as convenience stores to begin with. Many of the units or the businesses that you are familiar with as being termed convenience stores are not actually approved as convenience stores in the city. They've been approved as specialty markets, food markets, wine and cheese. It's been crazy. So we would like to get rid of all that and have everybody perform to a higher standard when they come in, or change their use or expand and be a much better business entity within the city. So we were very we spent a lot of time thinking about the performance criteria to add to the conditional and administrative uses for those types of activities, which are the single destination retail and standalone retail, as well as standalone and single destination commercial.
Okay, well, thank you. Other board comments, or would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve the changes to the LDR presented to our board this evening. Recommend approval to the commission.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Chip.
Yes.
All in favor, aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No one opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, William.
Thank you, William.
All right. And that is it for the new business. Do we have any planning issues or any departmental reports?
Yes, we have put together our initial departmental budget. There is a budget workshop, I believe, early in June where you'll hear that presented. We are looking forward to a status quo when it comes to staffing and our ability. We have reserved some money to hope to undertake some historic preservation activities in 2022. I'll let Jordan or Abraham talk about their activities with the state. As I mentioned, the Bohemian will be having a hearing before the Planning and Zoning Board on the 27th of May, and then goes to the City Commission on the 9th and the 30th of June. We have another project that will be probably submitted the end of this month for a 42 to 46 unit project near downtown on Federal Highway. We are in negotiations on working with a developer to do a development of some vacant land on Lake Worth Road west of 95. There is a project that's been proposed for Boutwell Road for market rate housing. There's another project that looks like townhouses. It hasn't been submitted, but it's been through preliminary site plan review, also on Boutwell Road for apartments. Please go by the mid. They've topped out their first two buildings. It's come a long way, and that same developer is doing the Bohemian project. There's a project that is anticipated to come in as part of a CRA on Lake and Lucerne west of Dixie Highway in the next few weeks for, I think it's 36 apartments that will be market rate. As regards to the Gulf Stream, we are working with them to bring forward a co-compliance negotiated settlement to deal with some co-compliance issues that were never resolved by Hudson Holdings. I do anticipate something coming before you as a board by the end of the summer. COVID has really thrown a wrench in the works on a lot of things that were that we were speeding along, hoping to have before you by the end of the spring. And unfortunately, things have been sidetracked for a bit. Other than that, I do want to commend the staff in DCS, our department. We have gone completely online through emails, electronic submissions. We've been closed to the public since the second week of March, but we have not slowed down on what we take in when it comes to business licenses, planning, zoning, preservation issues, building permits. Our one stumbling block is being able to take payments online. That is in the works. Building division we rolled out first. Then business licenses, code compliance will be held off for a little while. It gets to be a little bit complicated. And we're reinstalling or reinstituting the software that will let us take online payments for planning, zoning, and preservation. We do hope to have that all in place no later than the end of the summer, hopefully before the end of the fiscal year, but there are some hurdles with the banking system to address. So I believe, will be the first municipality, and we were the first municipality in Palm Beach County to completely close to public interaction in our lobby, but the level of work has not slowed down. And I really have to commend the staff who've been telecommuting. They've gotten a gigantic amount of work done. And one blessing from COVID, we were able to pull together all of these comp plan amendments and land development regulation changes to have them before you, because we had a little bit of a breathing room and some time to focus on those. So I really appreciate the staff, and I'm really happy that Aaron City has decided to join us.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
I have a quick question. Where's the Bohemian going to be built?
Where it's at Lake Avenue, the corner of Southeast Coast Street. diagonally behind City Hall, right in front of the Padron Flooring Company building, right along the railroad track.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Any other departmental reports? Anything from anyone?
No, Jordan's got something
So
else.
I think we do have a, right before we get to departmental reports, there's public comment. And I believe Sherry Cole did receive a general public comment, if you'd like to read that.
Thank you. Sherry?
Yeah, I did. And this is from Rebecca Gilmartin. Her address is 714 North L Street. She wanted to, I'll just read it. I also wanted to mention in regard to other local duplex properties and preservation. She was adjacent to the 7 or nearby the 711 North L Street property. Our communities would look much better without so many no trespassing signs and chain link fences. I don't know if it's really necessary and looks very prison-like. I guess, do the fences really keep people out of the yards? Do the property owners really have an issue with trespassing? These signs were not up everywhere when the historic homes were built. In addition, the downtown has amazing historic buildings that I feel don't have the care they deserve. I think a good pressure wash and a painting could revitalize the downtown without huge cost. A monochrome color scheme could really help overall appearance and create a more positive vibe. For example, look at South Beach in Miami, very uniform in colors and historic buildings are preserved in an aesthetically pleasing way. My opinion, for what it's worth. Thank you for listening. And that was the comment that we received.
Great, thank you. Jordan, you have other issues?
Just a couple quick items. Okay, so of course, every year in May, local preservation groups, state historical societies and businesses, and of course, civic organizations across the country celebrate Preservation Month through events that promote historic places and tourism, heritage tourism, and that demonstrate the social and economic benefits of preservation. So again, May is Preservation Month. Now we typically hold our historic preservation awards in the month of May to celebrate local achievements in preservation, but due to current social distancing guidelines, the city has tentatively postponed this year's event to October of 2020 to coincide with the National Trust for Historic Preservation's National Conference. This conference, which is called the Past Forward Conference, is being held in Miami this year. And staff will be sending you a follow-up email to provide you with information on the conference. But this event is a great educational program and networking opportunity attended by preservationists, local officials, and historic commissions from all over the country. So if you have the opportunity, being so close, you should definitely check it out. But we'll keep you up to date on the city's award program as things come more into focus. But we've already received some outstanding applications from your neighbors. So it'll be a great opportunity to showcase some of the great work going on in the city. And that was it. That's all I've got for you.
Excellent. Should we be nominating properties ourselves, or are you taking care of that?
You absolutely can nominate properties yourselves. The nomination deadline has been extended. Do you remember when? Up until the end of August. So there's plenty of time to get your submittals in, and I can resend out the nomination applications if you'd like.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other board member comments? No. Aaron, we're glad to have you on board. William, we're always happy to have. And could I hear a motion for adjournment then?
So moved.
So moved. We
Second,
are
before you
adjourned.
leave, you guys did an amazing job on our first Zoom quasi-judicial hearing meeting. We are one of the first in the state to be able to pull this off. So I am thrilled it went as well as it did. Much of the credit goes to both Aaron and Pamela Ryan. They should get a round of applause because this could not have happened without them, as well as IT. And please, when you see him, please thank Keith Sullivan and Anthony Rich from IT. Keith has been instrumental in being able to pull this off for the whole city, and we challenged him with a huge hurdle to pull something this complicated together. The city commission has not had a meeting where it had presentations or actually applicants. And so you all were the first, and even though it was long, I think it went really, really well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for putting it together.
Yep.
It's essential for letting the city keep moving forward. So thank you very much for all your efforts.
Amen.
Well, I had the pleasure to tell the developer today that we were not closed for business. We could handle whatever they wanted as fast as they wanted to bring it in here. And they were very pleasantly surprised by that.
Great.
Good. Good. All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen,
All right, everybody stay safe.
I bid you all a good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye now.